Hello everyone and welcome to Twitch Tales episode 67 or season 4 episode 8. Where did we leave off in the previous episode? Well, we are out in the woods, in the Fair Woods, maybe just north of what would considered the Fair Woods, and actually into the Great Expanse, sort of northwest of the Four Sisters villages. We had followed an old man called the Grave Digger into that woods because he said that he was going to show us something. He seemed to not be surprised when we mentioned a necromancer nearby, Sally. And he said, yes, I've seen evidence of necromancy as well. He was taking us to show us that when we were ambushed by some quasits, some demons, and upon dispatching them, we dug a hole dug a grave to bury the body parts of their previous victim, an elven wanderer. After a bit of investigation, we learned that this elven man was not a resident of the Four Sisters, was probably just a bit of a wood elf outlander just living on the forest, and had been in the wrong place at the wrong time and been encountered by these demons. We put his body to rest in the grave, Apis helping where they can to help the grave digger dig the grave in the first place. And just about at the lowest level, as you're down through the topsoil into the substrata below, you encountered a large root, which, upon striking it with his spade, it began to bleed. Apis noticed this first and warned the old man to get out of the hole very quickly, and he seemed to recognize it. He said that it was a bad sign that there was a vampire trees in the area. They send out these roots as feelers, as sort of scouts, as it were, to scout out areas with life in them, and then from those roots they grow blights. They grow twig blights and vine blights and needle blights and all sorts of things like that. Other vampiric trees. Seeming like that's probably a problem for another day, you reminded the gravedigger that he was in the midst of taking you to some necromantic magic, and he said, "Oh yes, just this way," and he led you off to his old hunting grounds, his old stomping grounds, where he used to live and work, an old abandoned sort of ramshackle house, a shed or two, and a large area of land that he used as a graveyard. He used to go around and putting the restless dead to rest, would take all of their bodies back to the same place so that they were all in one location. He could offer prayers to Miganesh and the gods of death and whatnot over these the bodies all in one place. But he soon put a stop to that when he, upon finding a very strong sense of restless dead from the northwest, he found an area that had a lot of torn apart bodies. Not able to discern which parts belonged to which people, he decided to dig a huge pit and put all of the body parts in together so that the spirits can do the work of sorting themselves out in the afterlife. He hadn't finished that work, however, when their body parts all started to move under their own volition. Thinking he was seeing things and not wanting to believe it, he continued his work for a little while, but eventually he couldn't deny it anymore, as even the bodies of older, more long deceased and long buried bodies started to crawl their way back out of the grave. He abandoned the gravesite and left, and has been a wanderer ever since. So, taking you to this graveyard, you walked down into the grave, and sure enough, upon your presence in the graveyard, almost as if they can feel the presence of life, the bodies and zombies and skeletons all started to put themselves back together and come slowly towards you, shambling towards you. You decided to skirt around the graveyard, bringing the bodies all sort of towards you, shambling down towards the back end of the grave, and you got close enough to see into the pit. And down into the pit you saw all of the body parts rolling and massing and amassing themselves together, stitching themselves together, holding onto one another, and pulling themselves up as one unit out of the pit. This body horror mass started throwing other zombies and rotting corpses at you as projectiles, and then those zombies and corpses started to attack you as well. You took quite a bit of damage and went down unconscious. Mel managed to stand you back up again with an adrenaline sting, and you managed to get the heck out of there just about the time that Mosh arrived to save you in his Werfox form. Picking them off from a distance, you took 20, as it were. You took a little while to shoot arrows and pick off the remaining zombies and skeletons and things. You chucked all of the lifeless, no longer reanimated body parts into the hole, into the pit. You threw in a bunch of oil and set fire to it, and burned as much as you could of the remaining corpses and bones. Unfortunately, with lantern oil, you're probably not going to get to a hot enough heat to fully cremate bones, but it's definitely going to burn away any of the softer body parts there. If there is some other magic animating them, however, the remaining bones and dust and ash of the pit may eventually come back to life, but ash is going to have a much harder time crawling itself back out of a pit, you hope. You turned around, still exhausted, in dire need of a short rest, and went back to the abandoned shack. It is now nightfall, and you've headed inside the shack with Mosh, Mel, and the Gravedigger to have a breather, to have a short rest. Your intent to go back to the elven villages in the southwest of where you are now, southeast of where you are now, and to warn them of what's in the area, and I suppose help out where you can. We'll see where you go from there. So, as you walk into this shack, you see that it has been not well looked after, even from before the time that the Gravedigger obviously abandoned it. He said that he hadn't lived here in about a year or so, and you can tell from the dilapidated nature of it that he wasn't exactly a handyman around the house before that time, because there are vines growing up the walls on the outside, ivy and whatnot that has been there for decades. There are also vines growing through broken windows and slats in the walls and things that would have taken longer than a year to grow to this state that they're in at the moment. It's quite a drafty house. Thankfully, being in the middle of a forest, there's not a lot of crosswinds, so it's not super windy inside. But it's also not exactly cozy. What do you guys want to do as you look around this dilapidated old house that is unlit and unheated? If it's getting dark, we'll need a long rest. It is getting dark. It is the springtime, I want to say, so it's dark around 7ish p.m, give or take. Second wind and then short rest. Good idea. Alright, so as we have multiclassed into fighter, we do have second wind. We are going to, let me just scoot some space in my dice box here. Scoot aside some space. Let me grab a D10 for you, which is one of your D10s. This is one of your D10s. D10 for the fighter, second wind, 7. So you get back 7 plus your constitution modifier, which is, 7 plus your level, that's right. 7 plus your fighter level, which is 1. So you get back 8 hit points. So it takes you from 16 hit points, which is what you were on. 16 hit points plus 8, it takes you to 24. You're on 24 of a maximum 62 hit points. Not bad, not bad. So we have 24 hit points. We're still bloodied after that second wind. We sort of just like take a step to into the building. We look around. We just think and like enter our own memory of when we leveled up the last time, and we were shown by the goddess of healing, Flonenshale, we were shown a little sort of serene oasis in the centre of a woods. We take ourselves back to that moment, and in that moment we allow ourselves a little bit more little bit more of a breather, a short of short rests, as it were. And then we start a short rest. How do you want to short rest here? Do you want to start a fire in the hearth? Do you want to start tidying up? Do you want to just sit down in a corner and not touch anything? What's your plan for short resting in this house? The door, remember, was hanging off of its hinges, dilapidated and hard to close the door without some work put into it. Munch on some rations. Yeah, you get yourself some rations out of your bag. Start pecking away at some of that, nibbling. We don't know if the chimney can be trusted, so best not make a fire in the hearth. Fire in the hearth. Ask Mosh to keep watch from the door and yell if he sees any movement. Point out the trees and explain unusual movement from them. So right before you rested, you recognised, as you started investigating some of the river nearby, you recognised that as the light started to get lost, you saw a few sort of in the peripheral vision. You saw movement that looked like it wasn't just wind through the branches. It looked like the trees were slightly moving. Some of Apis wanted to go and investigate that, but others decided not in this current state. So we tell Mosh, listen, Mosh, before we came in here, after we defeated those undead, it seemed the trees were moving, and the gravedigger overhears us and says, "Aye, there's a chance they were and all. It's like I said when we came across that route. There's vampire trees around and stuff. I don't know how safe we are here." Give Mosh the cloak so he can camouflage while he keeps watch. It's pretty clever. You've got a spare cloak anyway, since you're wearing your displacer cloak. You take your cloak of many fashions out of your bag, and you hand it to Mosh and say, just attach that to your and think about camouflage, and it'll just don't think about the inside changing, because that's where I keep my map. So he flicks the coat on, the cloak on, and turns it into a sort of a rural camouflage, and then he stands out on the porch, keeping watch. You can make new fire arrows. You can, yeah. You have in your inventory here one green arrow indicating that it's a tranquilizer arrow. It's got a sleep potion attached to it, so if you deal some damage to somebody, and then it will cast the sleep spell on them. You have one red arrow indicating that it is a regular arrow wrapped in the tar from one of your torches, so that you can dip it in fire and it will be a fire arrow, but you only have one of those left. And you have 8 +1 arrows, masterwork arrows. I'd like to ask a question of the dice to determine whether we can communicate with merry gentlemen through them. When we ask a question of these dice without any creature in our surroundings overhearing, is the being known as the MG always immediately, or at the end of the question, aware of the precise wording we use to ask the question? Very precise wording. Alright, so thumbs up or thumbs down in the chat. Is that your intention? Are we going to ask the dice a question such as that? Who wants to ask the dice that question so that we know whether the merry gentleman is aware of your questions when you ask the dice a question? Ooh, it's looking unanimous. Have we used the dice yet today? I really need like a dice button, don't I, so that I can keep a track of when we've actually used these dice. All right. Seems like it's unanimous. We are going to ask the dice that question. Good work. Good use working on the wording there. Have we used the dice? Can anybody tell me? When was the last time we used the dice? The last time we used them was before the last long rest in the cave. Okay, so we have not used them since we had a long rest. It's before we went to sleep yesterday night. Okay. Cool, so we are going to ask them the question. Let me put that in my notes as well. Under questions we have asked to the dice. Control. Paste. Apis, starting their long rest, gets the dice out. Is Apis at all concerned about being overheard by the gravedigger, Mosh, Mel, and or anybody else that may be overhearing? Is Apis trying to do this question in a stealthy way? Should we ask Gravedigger to keep watch first too, since he knows what the blights look like, and then he can't overhear us? Is he going to try and not be overheard, it sounds like? Mosh and Mel already know about the dice. Ask the question in Sylvan. Always on the down low. Alright, I'm going to roll you a stealth check just to see how easily you can find a stealthy corner to do your question in. 3 plus your stealth, which isn't actually that bad. You've got a 3 from Dex and you are proficient in it, so you've got 6. So you've got a 9. Takes you to a 9 there. With a 9 stealth, there you feel like you are being stealthy. You feel like you are asking the dice in a situation where you are not going to be overheard. You do not get forest bonus, Wraith, because you're in a house, not in the forest. Gotta hope the old man has bad hearing. Yep. All right. So you ask them. When we ask a question of these dice, without any creature in our surroundings overhearing, is the being known as the Merry Gentleman always, immediately, or at the end of the question, aware of the precise wording we use to ask the question? Then you let them go. There is a... Okay. As the first dice hits the hardwood floor that you've thrown them down to, as the bone connects with the wood, there is the sound of a sinister cackle, like a hag. As the next dice follows soon behind it, the bone of it hitting the wood, there is the vision of a yellow-eyed, toothy predator bearing down on you. As the next one follows, the bone hits the wood and you feel a very cold, chilling breeze. The first one bounces again and you hear music. You hear music, but it is slightly off-key music, or not off-key, but it's in a minor key, and it has a creepy carnival kind of a vibe to it. There's another clacking of the dice on the ground, and as it does so, you feel exhaustion. Exhaustion from overexertion, too much of a good thing, the feeling of too much of a good thing. As the dice come to rest, faster and faster they bounce across the floor, and faster with each bounce, new visions and sights, sounds, smells, temperatures. You are left with an overall feeling of woe. Whoa. Cool. So what now? This doesn't mean anything nefarious about Merry Gentlemen, just answers our question no, right? You don't know fully how these dice work, JH Pack. You can read into it whatever you like. But you are left with a feeling of woe to the question that you asked. Sensory overload. First rule of the dice, don't ask about the dice. You get feedback. Just as you drop the dice. Like a microphone's feedback. Just as clear as dealing with the Fae. Yep. If he controls the answers, it could also be woe. Can we ask the Gravedigger if he could learn the elven villages? If he could earn the elven villages, so we can go on our way. Oh, warn. Yeah, if he could warn the elven villages. I mean, yeah, we can ask him that if you want. What, Redar? I assume everybody is now. Now we've put Mosh on guard. We've done a second wind. We've asked the dice question. Now we're going to have our short rest finally. In my games, short rests are a multiple of half hours. So you choose how long the short rest is going to be. It still only counts as one short rest, so you can't regain your second wind like every half hour and then use it again every half hour, because that would break it. Between finishing your short rest and having another, you need to have done something that counts as like adventuring in some way, otherwise, that's just going to break the game. But you can choose to have just a half hour sit down and recover just one hit dice of hit points. If you want to sit for an hour, then you get 2 hit dice back. If you want to do 1.5 hours, you get 3 hit dice, and so on. You get 1 hit dice rolled per half hour that you sit down for your short rest. So how long are we wanting to rest for? We can just do 1 and roll the dice and see how we go, and then extend it if we need to. Let's rest, breathe, scratch Mel's big head. I think an hour, use the D10 from the fighter and then 1d8 from a ranger. The problem here is that the fact that we consider a bad consequence might not be considered bad by whoever's on the other end. Yes. 1 hour. Does Mel get short rest too? Yeah, Mel gets short rest as well. Yeah. Fancy doesn't want to leave Shadridge unprotected. Understood. Understandable. Just 1 dice. The trees are alive and we don't want to be risking our fighting in the dark. What time of day is it? It is late. It is probably around 7 PM, give or take, and it is sort of late twilight. So, you've just asked the dice a question and they came back with an answer for you. Whether or not you understand or like that answer, that's on you. For the first half hour of resting, you just sort of sit, you find a piece of furniture that is relatively intact and doesn't have too much of a mold about it. It's got like a musty kind of dusty scent to it, but the upholstery is relatively intact. You sit down in this armchair and just kind of catch your breath. I'm going to roll you that hit dice from your fighter. You're going to roll 1 fighter hit dice. Unfortunately, that's one of the problems of fighter multiclasses. Now that's complicated the hit dice situation, because you've now got 2 different types of hit dice that we're going to have to keep a track of separately. Alright, so with a hit dice, you are going to roll your fighter. Oh, 10, nice. Alright, 10 plus your con mod is 12. So you get 12 hit points back. You were on 24, you're now on 36. You're on 36 of 62. So you are no longer bloodied, you are no longer in the bloodied condition. At the end of that half hour, that first half hour, you've bandaged yourself up in the places that you were bleeding. You've managed to sort of shake off the bits of your muscles where you were just pounded on and beat on by the zombies and whatnot, the corpses. You've managed to sort of get the pain to subside sufficiently. So you're on 36 of 62. If you want to continue your short rest, you can do so now. But towards the end of that first half hour, I'm going to have you roll a perception check. 7 plus your perception of... Your perception's actually pretty good. It's a +5. So you get a 12 perception. Unfortunately, 12 is not enough, but Mosh comes into the room. Mosh is your werefox ally, and you put him on lookout while you were having a short rest. He comes in and says, "You guys hearing this?" And you didn't with a 12. You say, "What is it?" He says, "There was I don't know, maybe my mind's playing tricks on me." And the gravedigger says, "What is it?" I thought I heard screaming." The gravedigger just kind of like semi-nods and goes back to having his own short rest. What do you want to do? You say screaming? Yeah, I thought I heard screaming. It sounded maybe like a woman. Where did it seem to be? I couldn't tell you. It was out in the woods somewhere. So it's up to you guys. You've just about gotten to the end of your first half hour of the short rest. You can choose to extend this short rest for another half hour if you want to roll another hit dice. How dark is it now? It is now dark. Like, you've got dark vision as a dwarf, so you can still see fine. But it is definitively like night time now. Nautical twilight, I think, is what the official term would be. Ask Mel to take a look from high above while we get away from here. Could do that. We could go in the direction that you heard the screaming. I don't know though. Maybe we should leave it. There might be illusions. We could cast pass without a trace. Head out of here. Sneak away. Oh, that's much better. With an 18 perception now, as you're talking to Mosh, you hear it. It's definitely coming from outside of the house, in the woods relatively nearby, like within 500 feet, I'd say. Gravedigger, any idea what that was? And he says, I mean, it's probably what it sounds like, to be honest. But there's not much I can do to help him. Couldn't hurt to look, could it? It definitely could. Primeval awareness, we could do. So primeval awareness is a ranger ability to ask the surroundings, like, is there any blank within blank distance of me? Sounds like an injured rabbit. Check a window. You go to the windows and you look out. I'll do another perception check for you on out of one of the windows of the house. 3. 3 plus... Now you do get forest bonus because you're looking out into the forest. So that's going to be a +8. So still an 11 from a 3. Not bad, but not good enough. Apis always helps those in need, and we will earn inspiration for doing so. That's a good point, Tiligundis, but it might also kill you. It's up to you. Is there a sentient being hurt? I mean, it's possible. I'm not just going to tell you that, am I? You could ask the dice. The dice have some amount of chance of telling you the truth. Could be foxes. Sounded like foxes. Would a necromancy know if its creatures got killed? Necromancer? Possible. You don't know enough about necromancer to know that. If we use primeval awareness, it's probably our last level 1 spell slot. That's a good point. Yeah. Alright, thumbs up or thumbs down. Are we going to use primeval awareness? It will use our last level 1 spell slot, and we will get to ask the primeval awareness, are there any blank within blank distance of me? You just get a yes or no answer. It doesn't tell you how many or the distance. You just choose whichever ones to fill in those blanks, and it tells you a yes or no answer. So do you want to use primeval awareness, yes or no? Alright, it's not a unanimous decision, but it is quite a clear decision that Apis no decides not to use primeval awareness in this moment. Okay, so no primeval awareness. New question. New question from here. Yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we want to use... what was I going to say? Do we want to use... There was a different question I was going to ask. What was it? Primeval awareness. Oh, do we want to ask the dice a further question? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we want to ask the dice a further question about what we just heard? Is there someone in danger that we could help, or whatever? All right. Again, not a unanimous decision, but a clear majority saying no. We're not going to ask the dice a question either. Okay, so we're not going to ask the dice question, and we're not going to use primeval awareness. So new question, new question. Yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down. Do we want to, in some way, investigate the sound that we heard? Whether that's going to them, or sneaking around the area, or listening out for more information, or just in some way investigate that sound. Ooh, this one's a lot more down the middle. This one's harder to call. I'm going to have to put this one to a proper poll, I think, to make sure that I know whether we're calling it right. Investigate the sound. Yes or no? Let's make it a 2-minute poll. The time starts now. We can investigate the sound, yes or no. We are on 30, what did I say, 36 of 62 hit points. We're at 36 hit points. We have all 3 of our level 2 spell slots. We've got 1 of our level 1 spell slots. We've got infinite arrows, as far as we know. I feel like it's a trap. We could pass without a trace and scoot on out of here. Apis is standing at the window, looking out at this stage, looking to see if you can see anything. There's nothing seemingly moving in the forest. There's nothing that you can see or hear at the window. Oh, look at that. Without touching it, dice cam. I just rolled you a nat 20. Nat 20 on your perception check. Plus forest bonus, I guess. So a hell of a lot. As you're deciding what to do, as you are... What are we coming down on for Apis' investigation? Ooh, we're coming down on the side of yes. As you're investigating what to do... You hear it from the forest. It is definitely coming from relatively nearby, you'd say within 500 feet. You know the rough direction it would come from. From where you are, it would be slightly to the northeast of where you are. That one definitely, to Apis' high perception there, sounded like a woman in pain. And with 66% of the vote, Apis decides we're going to investigate the sound. How are we going to investigate? Not going to lie, this is classic trap department. Yep, Apis is fully aware as they're standing there listening. They are fully aware this could definitely be a trap. But as we know about Apis and who they are, they will help people in need. Because you have made the decision, despite knowing that it's a trap, or knowing that it could be a trap, because you've made that decision to investigate it anyway, I'm going to give you inspiration. Inspiration is 1 reroll, essentially. How are we going to investigate? Stealthily. Stealthily to me means you're going to pass without a trace. So thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you want to use pass without a trace? It's a 2nd level spell slot. It is a concentration spell that means, I think it's concentration, isn't it? That gives you a +10 to any stealth checks. Send out the spy drone. Mel?
Yes, what is it, Apis?
You hear that scream?
Yes, I heard it. What is it? Is someone in danger?
I don't know if anybody's in danger or not. But I think there's a chance that somebody is, and that's good enough for me. I need to if I can help them, I need to help them. Mosh says, I'm coming with you. And the gravedigger says, I'm not. Yeah, fair enough. So we get to the edge of the door into the abode. Apis, the first thing you notice is that by the door of the house there are a lot of leaves on the porch. You ask Mosh, who was standing watch out here, has there been wind around? Like like they kicked up a bit of wind, and he says, yeah, it seemed to be a bit windy while I was keeping watch. The leaves were sort of blustering around the graveyard quite a bit. Okay, but there's no wind now? I mean, doesn't seem like it. Okay, fine. You step out onto the porch and immediately the leaves start to just pick up slightly. There's a very supernatural element to the way that they're moving and the sort of windless way that they are moving. One of them strikes up and just like hits across you with force that you wouldn't expect from a leaf, particularly in slightly windless conditions. As we step out onto the porch and the leaves sort of strike against us in a strangely self-propelling nature, we sort of focus in on the shadows of the night and start to slowly draw them in towards us. As we focus on the breathing and the pulses of movement of the shadows, in and out, cyclical, and eventually we stick those shadows to us, casting Pass Without a Trace on us and anyone within 30 feet of us. Bling. With our last level 2 spell slots, we pass without a trace, and we're going to now make a stealth check with a +10 roll. D20 plus 19. That's good. 19 plus your stealth modifier. You are going to be moving in the forest, so I'm going to allow you a forest bonus, which will make this a +9, so 28 already. Then Pass Without a Trace takes it to 38. With a 38 stealth, we are one with the shadows. Then Mosh, not as good, but still pretty good with a 23. And then with Mel, who has disadvantage on stealth anyway because of her buzzy wings. Where's her D20? There it is. Mel has disadvantage, so you can see her dice are a little cute honey-looking one with some bee inclusions, and a yellow and black striped bee dice. Mel has disadvantage on stealth, but she has a good +4. She's got a 4 or a 4, and she's got a +4. And then because of Pass Without a Trace, she's got a +14 instead. So 4 + 14, 18. So Mel, thankfully with your Pass Without a Trace, is still doing okay with an 18 stealth. We say, after casting Pass Without a Trace, we say to our allies, our companions, I wonder if these are vampire leaves. We should get back to the elves to sleep overnight as soon as we've worked out the source of these screams. And Mosh says, yeah, agreed. I suppose they could be. And he looks down at himself as one of these leaves just like strikes him across the chest and does nothing. Can she just sit on our backpack? That is one of the things that a lot of you guys have said you want to get commissioned at some point during downtime, if you ever take downtime. You want somebody to commission a bar or like a holding perch that you can fasten to the top of your backpack so that Mel can just ride on it and not have to buzz along. Buzz, buzz, buzz. We used almost all our level 1s. The notes from the previous session have the same. It was a typo. We have 1 level 1 and 2 level 2. Jesus, if we can keep track of spell slots, it would be very useful. We had 1 level 1 and 2 level 2. So now we're down with Pass Without a Trace. We've got 1 level 1 and 1 level 2. Is that right? Okay, I'm going to go 1 level 1 and 1 level 2. So we are Pass Without a Trace. We are very, very stealthy. Mel is slightly less so. Mosh is doing okay. And as you step off of the deck, you immediately notice that the leaves that had sort of rustled around you on the deck do not seem to follow you. They blow up a little, but they don't come down off of the deck after you. As soon as you've passed without a trace, it seems like they are no longer, if they are moving under their own volition like a creature, then it seems like they are no longer aware of your presence because of your high stealth there. I'm going to have you roll. So this is a passive thing, really. Yeah, I'm just going to use your passive perception actually for this. Given forest bonus. Yeah, forest bonus works for reasons. So passive perception with forest bonus would be an 18. Well, in this situation, I use passive as 5+ modifier, so it'd be a 13. That's still pretty decent. I'm going to say that you will notice it, yes. As you step down, you sort of notice that these leaves don't really follow you. You also notice that they are somewhat unusually not going inside the house. I've mentioned that the front door of this house was standing ajar and like hanging off its hinges. And you notice that the leaves are, as much as they're sort of like blustering over one another, they're getting to the threshold of the door and no further, and then they'll sort of swirl around and end up back on the porch. Could be that they might be illusions. It could be. It could be. They're outside leaves, yeah. Is the gravedigger controlling them somehow? It's possible. The thought passes through Apis' mind, being that you are Apis' mind. Can we try and grab one? Do you guys want to try and grab one of the leaves to see if they're illusions? Yes or no? If we grab a leaf, it could alert the other leaves, maybe. Ooh, it's interesting. It's just picking up a leaf, surely. Alright, poll. Question. Grab a leaf. Yes or no? I'm just going to put it to a 1-minute poll. It's a little hard to tell with the chat alone. It's sort of down the middle. 1 minute to decide, are we going to try and grab a leaf? As we've noticed that there's something odd about their movement, there's odd about where they're going. They're not exactly going in the house. Are we going to see if they're an illusion, or are we going to see if they react in certain ways? Do we have gloves or something? We do. I don't believe we have any gloves on, no. We're an archer. We don't tend to use like bracers. Although we do have some dragon braces, dragon hide braces being commissioned for us at some point. Rob's managed to get us on edge about a leaf. Well, you're in a horror part of the story now, aren't you? It's important to get on edge about all the smallest of things. Are we going to pick up a leaf or not? Out of context, somebody's gonna be like, I've just tuned in. Are you really putting a vote on whether or not to pick up a leaf? Apis thinks about picking up a leaf to test whether they're illusions, decides not to do so because they're currently stealthed, and if it is something untoward with these leaves, you don't want to risk anything. So you turn around and you leave. You leave the porch alone. You head into the woods instead. As you've been mucking about with these this porch and casting Pass Without a Trace, and then deciding on whether or not to pick up a leaf, you've been spending a little bit of time sort of faffing, and so you're not 100% sure which direction to go for the scream, but you remember that it was in a vague direction, in a sort of northeastward direction from the house, and so you set off into the woods. With your 38 stealth, you leaf the house and into the forest, and you walk for. I'm going to roll to see how long. You walk for about 80 feet before you hear it again. You now have a better direction, and you know that it's somewhere within like 300 feet of you. You adjust your new direction, your new heading, and you start heading in that direction. You walk for another 100 feet or so. And you don't see anybody. You don't see signs of a struggle. You don't see evidence of a camp or a through line, a desire line. You don't see a path. You're just in untamed wilderness of the forest. Whisper to Mosh. Do you smell anything? Keen scent. Keen scent. Oh, that's good because he got a 3 and a 16. So with a 16, I'm not smelling any blood. Mel, do you see anything?
I don't see anything, no.
What do you guys want to do? Knock an arrow, be ready for danger. You get your arrow out. You've got an arrow knocked in your bow. You're ready for danger. Was it an illusion? Maybe it could be. This smells like a trap to me. I don't think anybody's actually in danger out here. There is a and you turn around and you see that Mel has been struck across the side by a leaf that has sort of whipped up behind, and unfortunately it beat her stealth with its perception roll finally. It's good that she had such a high roll relative to what she rolled with an 18. It did mean that you managed to keep it stealthy for some time, but eventually they did manage to beat an 18. A leaf cuts across Mel's body, and some blood starts to trickle. You see some of her blood start to pool at the edges of her fur, and then another leaf whips up behind, and another, and you can see that these leaves seem to be leaving you alone, but they have definitely now noticed Mel, and with one of them managing to cut through, you can see that the others are now interested. On top of that, you can see that vines from the canopy above you guys have started to move down behind you and started to make almost not solid walls, obviously, but long drooping vines of kind of like, what are they called, the like fly doors that you use in like bakeries and things, the individual ropes and things that just keep flies out. They've kind of formed those over the paths that you've been taking to get into where you are now. To get to this particular part of the clearing, you see that vines have started to tried to block exits as much as possible. You can tell that Mel has been recognized, and the plants are starting to move in. Light it up, torch it, point to Mel, point to the door, indicate for her to get inside. You are not within sight of the house anymore. You're at least like 180 feet away from where you were, and you're through like undergrowth and stuff. So what do we want to do quickly? What is the first thing Apis does? We have an arrow knocked. You could try and aim at one of the leaves. It's going to be very difficult to hit one of the leaves individually as they flick around. You can also try and hit one of the vines. You could try and chuck your Cloak of Displacement on her to protect her a little bit. It wouldn't give her the displacement properties, but it might give her a little bit more protection. Cast Protection from Good and Evil on Mel. We could do that if we've got the spell slots for it. We do. We could Protection from Good and Evil it. We could use a Fire Arrow. Oh yeah, we wanted to make some Fire Arrows during our short rest, didn't we? I'll allow that. How many do we manage to make within our short rest? Just one. Apparently we were focused on other things, wrapping ourselves up and bandaging and things. So we managed to make a single extra fire arrow. But we did so without using up a torch, I'm going to say. We managed to just scrape off enough that, just small amounts, enough that it would set fire, but without it taking away one of our torches. How dry do the leaves and trees seem? I mean, it's springtime, so it's been relatively wet. They seem like they wouldn't burn immediately. It's not like they are kindling. The leaves are somehow themselves alive or something like that? Maybe. Can we tell the leaves we don't want to hurt them? If we just want to rest and leave, we'll leave them alone if they leave us alone. You could do if you want to. I'm just trying to get like an idea of what everybody's options are, and then we'll put it to a poll. So some people are saying tell Mel to run away, using hand signals and shit. Some other people are saying set fire, just start fires, start firing arrows and lighting up torches and see if we can burn this place to the ground in the middle of a forest. Others are saying we should just try and communicate with the leaves in some way. What else we got? What are the options? Right, 4 torches, 2 for us, and Mosh waves torches. So fire, tell Mel to get out of here, or try and communicate with the leaves. That's what the 3 that are coming up most. What to do immediately? The first thing we can do, obviously we can try all of those things, but what's the first thing that Apis' mind goes to when they hear Mel call out in pain? You turn around and you see a leaf has just struck across her and cut like a small superficial wound in her side. Some blood has started to pool where her fur is, and then you see other leaves starting to kick up and vines starting to creep down. What does Apis do immediately? Go for fire. Meaning like light up a torch if you can. Communicate with leaves, like shout out to the leaves that you're not here to hurt them or anything. See if you can persuade your way out of this. Tell Mel to run. Alright, with 74% of the vote, Apis decides to tell Mel to run, to get out of here, to flee. Now, Apis has spent a little time over the last couple of weeks helping Mel. Well, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point. We spent a little time training Mel in the use of some hand signals so that we can communicate with her. Like a semaphore language, Apis spent a little bit of time teaching Mel some of these signals. Mel is not a very smart animal, and so it was pretty difficult to teach her these things. But I remember you did very well. I think you got a nat 20 on your attempt to teach her this stuff. So she has picked up some of it. Did you teach her about flee or get out of here? In the case of danger, is there a signal you've given her that tells to flee? I think that would be something you would have taught her. It seems like a relatively important one to have focused your time on teaching her. So I feel like you've given her like a hand signal indication of like it's hopeless, we're fleeing. So you give her this real nice panicked face pointing. That's the signal. Run! Do this. Ah! So you give her this quick like signal to say like we're leaving. Is she going to understand it? I feel like she will, but there's a chance she won't. So DC. Okay. Oh Jesus. So let me explain something real quick. Setting a DC on the back of my my board here. I've got setting a DC, and it goes from Is it going to focus? It goes from exceptionally easy, 3. Very easy, 6. Easy, 9. I figured that with her being taught in this stuff with you, you spent some time teaching her these signals and stuff. Will you understand? Will she understand it? I set it at exceptionally easy. So it was a DC of 3 that she needed to meet in order to understand the signal that you're trying to give her to flee. However, with her being in pain, and with her having a -2 intelligence, and rolling a 2, I got a 0 on the check. So unfortunately, she's just she's panicked, and she forgets in this moment. You haven't drilled her on these semaphore patterns and things that you've been trying with her. You haven't like gone over it day after day after day to like teach her and to keep it in mind for her. You haven't drilled her on it in a while, apparently. So with a 0 intelligence check, she does not know what you're trying to tell her in this moment. She's loyal to you, and she's not yet in a bad way enough that she can like be killed by a single strike from a leaf. So she's not yet in fight or flight mode. She wants to stay with you and protect you. She doesn't understand what you're saying. So as you tell her to run away, she flies over towards you instead. So that was your attempt. What you were going to do as this combat kicks off. Now it's their turn. As this combat kicks off, Mel flies over to you, not knowing what you're asking her to do, what to do. She's in too much of a frightened state. She didn't expect a sudden strike across her rear end. You notice that on their turn, the leaves dart down after her, flying in to try and make more attacks. One of them is going to miss. The next one is going to hit and does one more point of damage. Cuts across her. The next one is also going to hit and does 1 point of damage. And the next one's a nat 20, so it does 2 points of damage. So this, each individually, it seems like they're not going to do deep cuts, but it seems like a lot of these leaves, or these leaves left undealt with, are going to become a problem. They're going to end up with a death by 1,000 cuts kind of a situation. She has just taken 5 points of damage from 4 different successful strikes from these leaves. It seems that when they hit you before on their chest, they rolled a nat 1 and they did not manage to cut you, which is why they did not notice that you were a living creature when they hit you on the porch. And so they kind of gave up on you. And then you cast Pass Without a Trace and you avoided their notice from that point on. These leaves have started to chase after Mel, cutting across her, starting to whip up. There's a couple more leaves starting to fly in from the nearby trees as well, as if flying on the wind until they get close, and then picking up speed as they get close enough to raise a leaf. The vines have also continued. They haven't reached out from where they are, but they've continued to just creep down to sort of like to remove chance of escape from anywhere around. And then at the last moment, you also hear from nearby. It sounds like a woman in pain, and she seems like she's about 50 to 100 feet in the direction you were going in the first place. What's Mel's HP maximum? If she took 5 damage, she's still looking fine. Pack. She's not bloodied at the moment. Because she had a long rest at the same time as you did, remember? A short rest, sorry. What's the plan now, everybody? Mosh, you can see that his claws have come out. He's turned his fists into his werefox paws. He's got the gingerish fur on the back of the hands and the long claws. It seems that the leaves have still not attacked you, because until you have done anything to break stealth, it seems like they're still unaware of you being there. Wave a torch around should work on plants. It very, very well might. It's certainly an option that you can try. Can we say quietly, come on, Mosh, grab Mel, run as far as we can, release Mel so she can fly the rest of the way on her own. Yeah, we can try that. Is that the idea? Mosh is immune to non-magical damage. Yep. Which is why on his, like, he was out keeping watch, and if you'd have put the Gravedigger out on the porch keeping watch instead, not that he would have really agreed to it, then he would have noticed as soon as the leaves came and attacked him. Mosh has noticed that it's been windy, but he hasn't been hurt by the leaves while he's been out on the porch, and so he didn't think it was worth talking about. Oh, there's some leaves out here. Alright, so quite a lot of people wanting to grab Mel. So we, as Mel comes flying in, you reach up and you grab a hold of her and you're like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. The leaves that are closest to Mel now have now seen you, because even with a 38 you're not invisible. You were just very very highly hidden in the surroundings, but if they're like literally right up in your face, as they now are, they're flying past her and you've reached up to grab her. So you've got Mel, but you have made yourself available and visible to the leaves at least. Not necessarily the vines. If we run, would we get tied up by the vines behind our path? It is possible at this point, because they've had a little time to ambush, to do their trap, to come in behind you and drop behind you into the canopy. There is a chance that you will get caught up in them, but not a guarantee. You've still managed to catch the trap relatively early. Can we take Mel back to the cabin, have Mosh investigate the screams thanks to his immunity? You can do, yeah. Sounds good. So you say, Mosh, just check if that's really a person. I'm gonna get Mel out of here. I think it's a trap. And Mosh says, I'm on it. And he turns and sets off running in the direction of the woman's screams. As soon as he leaves your 30-foot range, though, the pass without a trace drops on him, and it drops him back down from a 23 to a 13 stealth. You grab Mel and you start to run. I'm just gonna have you roll like an acrobatics check, essentially, because as you're sort of picking and as I've said, there's no path, there's no desire line, there's no clearings. You're just through wild undergrowth at this point, so you're trying to pick and choose, like not standing in bushes and trying to jump over roots and things like that. So you are not proficient in acrobatics, but you do have a +3 dexterity, so you should be okay at this, hopefully. Where's your dice cam? There it is. With a +3 from your 5 takes you to an 8. That means that unfortunately that's not enough to overcome the difficult terrain of this forest. You are a ranger with forest bonus. Forest bonus? Yeah, I'm going to actually add forest bonus to this because it's literally about the dexterity of jumping over things. So instead of an 8, that would be an 11 with your forest bonus. So you do manage to, the DC was a 10. So you do manage to overcome difficult terrain, and you manage to run at your regular speed, which for a dwarf is 25. So with 25 feet of movement, you up and down and around and trying to avoid the leaves as they're striking across. You do get an attack of opportunity, well, 4 of the attacks of opportunity from the 4 leaves that were present. All 4 of which will hit you with a, one of them only just hits you with a 15 armor class. The others are much more higher than that. So you take 4 points of damage as 4 leaves, as you leave their range. They raise a leaf across you. Death by 1,000 cuts style. You start getting on their own relatively superficial cuts, probably less than an inch deep and probably less than 2 or 3 inches long. But across all of your one of them, because of disadvantage on the displacer cloak, I'll say the first one still would have hit. So the first one would have hit despite the disadvantage, and then the displacer's cloak would have shimmered back into 1, and the rest of them would have hit anyway. With 25 feet of movement, you have now outside of the range of where the leaves were attacking you, but you're now going to have to start pushing your way through the vines. You haven't taken an action, so you're going to dash and you're going to get through the vines as much as possible. This is going to be an acrobatics check as well. This one you do not have forest bonus on, because although it's to do with avoiding vines, these vines are sentient and actively trying to whip out and grab you. It's not like you're trying to avoid regular forest plant vegetation and whatnot. Using Zephyr first. I did miss that. You want to use Zephyr? Yes. That's your last level 1 spell slot to use Zephyr. Yes or no? You will not get your bonus from the other things. 1 or 2 before running. Yeah, I would. I'll retcon and take no attack of opportunity damage if you do use Zephyr Strike. Keeping heals for Mel for later. Ooh, it's pretty down the line. It's pretty hard to call. I'm going to have to put it to a poll. Zephyr Strike, no. We decide no, we are not going to use Zephyr Strike with 61% of the vote. So we take those attacks of opportunity as I described. We run with Mel. We get to the edge of where the vines are dangling down for us. Because we are running without any attempt at doing so slowly and stealthily, the vines are going to whip out towards us. They're going to see where we are and hear Mel near us as well. She's not exactly buzzing her wings, but she's also not calm. She's still fluttering and in a bit of a flutter herself. So the vines are going to whip out towards us. I'm going to make it a contested grapple check essentially on their part. So acrobatics check on you. You don't have forest bonus, and then athletics check at them. So dice chem. That's your athletics check, your acrobatics check, which is a +6, so 18. Not bad. 18 versus their. Oh, they got pretty well as well, but not quite an 18. It was like a, what would that be, 16. So pretty close, but not close enough for them. You manage to duck and weave, and one of the vines hits across your forehead and almost wraps around, but it kind of like sweeps through your hair and you duck down. Another of the vines wraps around your leg, but you just push through and kind of snap off a tip of the vine as you run. It kind of attaches to the front of your shin, like one of those. There's like different names for them in every different culture. The little bobbly bits in forests that get stuck to you and stuck to animal fur and stuff. It sticks. The vine sort of sticks to the front of your shin like that. You are running in that direction back towards the house. Mosh is running in that direction towards the sound of the woman in pain. That's your turn. Mel is going to... You sort of get to the edge of where you can run, and once you're past the vines, you just kind of throw and say, "Run, Mel! Back to the house!" And you throw her that way. Mel's going to, on her turn, just keep flying out in the direction of the house. On Mosh's turn, you hear from behind you... shit! It's a trap! And that's all you hear from Mosh. And then on the vine's turn and the leaves' turns, you're still casting. You've still got Pass Without a Trace up, and now without Mel around you, there's a chance that they're going to miss where you went. So I'm going to roll a perception check for the vines. There's multiple of them, so they get advantage on the roll because one of them might see you and the others won't. With advantage on the roll, and you had a 38. They don't need to beat a 38 because you're running, so I'm going to give them a circumstantial bonus here. It takes them to like high 20s. I'm going to say that they know the rough area that you are because you're running through the forest. And they rolled a 19 plus their modifier. So you are running. You've thrown Mel off. You know that there's Mosh behind, no longer with Pass Without a Trace on him. And there's a bunch of the leaves that knew where you went and then kind of started flying after you as well because of Mel. Because of the circumstances, the leaves no longer know where you are or know where or have interest in you, but they instead use their actions to fly after Mel. They're flying as quick as they can to catch up with Mel. The vines, however, there is one of them knows where you are, I'm going to say, and the others have more interest in Mosh, it seems. You see that some of them have started to retreat back up into the canopy, and only the ones closest to you are going to reach out to try and grab you. But, unfortunately for them, they fail with a 4 on the dice. It's up to you guys now. What do you want to do? Mosh is just shouted, "Oh shit, it's a trap!" And the vines around are starting to retract to head over his direction. The leaves have gone past you towards Mel, and there is one vine that is nearby, one small group of vines nearby that are going for you still. So do you want to attack the ones that are going for you? Do you want to run after Mel? Do you want to go back for Mosh? Do you want to start lighting up a torch and seeing if that will help? Play the panpipes. Light up torches. See how see if the leaves react to the fire as a weakness, maybe. All right. So who's cool with using your action to light up a torch? Thumbs up or thumbs down. Obviously, if you light up a torch, you're foregoing any benefit that you're getting from Pass Without a Trace here. If you don't light up a torch and instead you just keep running, then you will easily lose the vines with your Pass Without a Trace. It's only because they are right next to you and you're running that they have managed to see you. Go get Mosh. Might be immune to non-magical damage, but not if they strangle him. Alright. Quite a few people wanting the torch, but more people not wanting the torch. Alright, so we are not going to light a torch. What are we going to do instead? Are we going to go to Mosh? New question from here. New question. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are we going to go back for Mosh? Are we running to Mosh to help him? He is immune to non-magical damage, being that he's a werewolf. But as other people have said, there are other ways to hurt him. Okay, so it seems like a unanimous decision. Mel is on her way to the house. You hope that she can make it to the house before the leaves get to her and death by a thousand cuts situation. So you turn back on the vines that have just reached out to grab you. You turn back. They're starting to reach out again. You can see that they're sort of missing you. With their 4 from before. It's probably because they're not 100% sure where you are because of your stealth. They just knew that something was running through the forest there, and you can see them sort of reaching out. You use that to your advantage to just stop moving. And as soon as you stop moving, your 38 stealth becomes a lot more useful. The vines, once they reach out, you can see them sort of send out a couple of feelers with great strength down into areas of the ground around you. And then they sort of retract back. And you can see them starting to retreat back up into the canopy of the tree. You start moving back in the direction of Mosh with a stealth. Because of everything that's happened and movement and action and running and stopping, I am going to have you re-roll your stealth check to see what you get now. With your new stealth check, you still have Pass Without a Trace up. Oops, I'm going to try that again with hitting the... Hey, okay, so I think that's going to be a pretty good stealth there. I think with a nat 20, plus 10 from Pass Without a Trace, plus forest bonus, plus stealth, that takes it to the highest it can be, which is a 39. Did I do the maths on that right? Yeah, 39. So you actually did one better than it was in the last one. We just won D&D, 39 stealth. You make it quite easily and quickly back across the undergrowth that you were jumping across before to see that Mosh, in the time that it's taken you to get to him, is he captured or not? Let's see. So there was definitely an ambush there waiting for him. There was the main body of the trap. You kind of were springing the outskirts of the ambush when Mel was attacked. The main body of the ambush was where the woman screaming was. Unfortunately, he rolled poorly on his in his check there. So yes, he is captured. So as you arrive at this clearing, you see one of these huge bell flowers. One of these that like contains like nectar within it. You've seen kind of like a vile plume or a weeping bell or something from Pokemon. Huge big basin with like a long like petal, a long God, I don't know enough about botany to remember all of the different terms, the different types of parts of the flower. Like a huge petal over the top of this like basin. And as you are getting to it, you can see that it sort of like swells up a little bit, and then it sort of like squeezes down the petal onto the top of this bell, and as the bell sort of pushes inwards, it's sort of compressing. It forces air through this petal at the top, which forms this screaming sort of sound. A pitcher plant, that's the word, yes. Like a pitcher plant, but as it screams, it starts to sound like that of a human woman screaming. You see that this has been clearly the bait, the lure that Mosh has come to investigate. And as Mosh has gotten there, you can see that he is grabbed from the back, wrapped up by one of these vines from the canopy, and the vine is now pulling him up off of the ground. He's now weightless. He has no access to the ground himself. But just as you're arriving there, he's reaching up with his claws and trying his best to like cut and attack the vines behind him. It does not seem like he is being injured by the plants, being that he's with his curse, his affliction, actually helping him here. But he is definitely being dragged up into the canopy and closer towards one of the trees. You have not been noticed. You are not by Mosh, not by the plants, not by anything. You can see that the vine that's grabbing Mosh is not the only one here. There's other vines starting to come down from the all around this clearing, around this pitcher plant in the centre. What do you want to do? Perception, any other new plants other than leaves, vines, and other things. Okay, perception check, just a nice quick one as you enter the clearing. 6 plus forest bonus counts here, so 8 rather, so 6 and 8 is 14. 14 perception is enough to notice that there are several plants moving around you, yes. There's vines for the most part. The pitcher itself has got, the pitcher plant has got some movement to it. It's not seemingly like ambulatory. It's not moving in terms of like leaving its space, but within its own space it is moving. And you can also see that there are small bush-like plants, twig-like bushes around you too, as well. Fire arrow. Lantern oil into that bell. Shoot an arrow into the vine, pulling him up. Fire arrow, torches, hunter's mark. Alright, it seems we might be going into a proper combat here, so let's enter combat mode to set the scene for you once more. You've just entered a very small clearing. It's probably only about 20 feet across. Around the ring of the clearing are several vines coming down at all locations. These vines you know to be sentient and reaching out to grab a hold of creatures. There is a large pitcher plant, probably around about 12 feet tall and about 4 or 5 feet wide in the just sort of the other side of the center of this clearing. It's filling with gas, and then it will squeeze that gas out of itself to make the sound of a woman screaming. There are vines, one of the vines nearby, so off to the left of where you are, probably about 10 feet from where you're standing, but now about 5 feet off of the ground, is Mosh hanging in the vines. There are also bushes in the clearing and around the clearing, behind you and around you, that are starting to move as well. You've seen these bushes moving before, you've seen them as twig blights. You have fought twig blights before. So you can see vine blights, you can see twig blights, and you can see the pitcher bell thing in the center. Remember that a fire arrow won't work unless it's already on fire. Yes, it is not a magical fire arrow. It is an arrow that has been wrapped in tar, so that if you have a fire, if you have a lit torch, for instance, you can quickly dip your fire arrow into it and then shoot it, and then it will be a fire arrow. It does fill up with gas. It might be flammable. That's a good point. Shooting a lit arrow into the bell flower might set it on fire. But you don't know exactly what the gas is that it's using. Alright, you've had enough time to enter, so let's roll it. The fancy unicorn, look at that. The fancy unicorn, what are we going to do? Are there vines near the bellflower? There are vines behind the bellflower, probably about 5 feet away from it. They're not wrapping around it. They're not they're close to it, but not touching it. Is the pitcher plant a threat? Not necessarily. From what you've seen of it, it just seems to be making noises to lure people towards it. Hasn't seen us yet. We should be able to do the 2 things before it sees us, as long as we don't attack it first. Yeah, if on your turn you don't do anything that gives away your stealth, then you can do other things, but it will continue to move as well. I'm doing this in sort of an initiative thing. It's a little bit loose because we're not 100% in combat yet, but I will consider what the creatures and Mosh are doing, because they're definitely in combat with each other. I'll consider them what they're doing in an initiative situation. Maybe a normal arrow to destroy the vine wrapping around Mosh if the vine is thin enough. It's possible. That would be a very difficult shot. I would have it would be a cold shot situation, and it would be very difficult, but possible. Fancy says, action to light a torch for later. Bonus action to ready a fire arrow. Movement check behind us for stealthy vines. Alright, that's all good except for bonus to ready. You cannot use a bonus action to ready a fire arrow. But you can... to take the ready action you can't do as a bonus, but you can just have one ready. If that's what you mean. So you... Apis sees this, gets the torch out of their bag, gets a flint out of their bag, flint and steel, and realizes in this moment you're going to... you meant just get one out. Yeah, good. You, in this moment, know that you know full well that you're going to be giving away your position and your stealth here. You hit the flint and steel. The torch lights very quickly. You chuck the flint and steel back in your bag and hold the torch up, or stick it on the ground, wherever you want it to be. You chunk the torch down into the ground. You grab out one of the fire arrows, and you can see the vines now starting to notice the fire, and starting to pull towards you. You have an arrow out, and then movement. Did you say you want to use anything for movement? Movement check behind us for stealthy vines. You check behind you for stealthy vines, and with a perception check of... not good. A perception check of a 10 with forest bonus. You don't see any vines behind you that are creeping up. It seems like with your stealth, they definitely weren't creeping up on you because they didn't know you were there. But now that you've lit a torch, they do. Alright, that was a good turn. We've got a fire ready in case we need to use fire arrows. We've got 2 of the fire arrows to use. For now, though, the vines that are attacking Mosh are going to continue to drag him up into the branches, and the vines near him are going to try and grab a hold of him as well. Thankfully for him, they fail. Which means that I'm going to make his retaliation attack to see if he can claw his way out of the vines. Unfortunately for him, he also fails. So no further vines manage to grab a hold of him, but he also doesn't manage to cut enough of them loose. He's grabbing a couple and snapping them, but there's like more vines coming in. But in mechanical terms, only one creature has grabbed him, and the other creatures, the other vine blights near him, were also trying to grab him. The one that has grabbed him, though, has used its movement to try and drag him further up into the trees, so he is now going to be about 10 to 12 feet off of the ground. The vines near you, though, are going to now reach out to try and grab a hold of you. Or, actually, vine blights can do a once per day entangle thing. So you're on the ground. You would notice that some of this has already happened, like where Mosh was. That was the initial ambush. When he called out, oh god, it's an ambush. It's because they used this once per day entangle thing. They're going to use it on you. The ones that haven't used it are going to use entangle on you, meaning you have to make a strength saving throw. Strength saving throw for you, not great. 8 plus 1. Oh, you are proficient in strength, which is why you've got a little white outline to it. So that's a plus 4, so that's a 12. A 12. I'm going to have to look up whether a 12 is enough. I don't know if it is. How high up is Mosh? He's about 10 to 12 feet off the ground, and he's about 10 feet from you, so 14 to 16 feet from you as the arrow flies. Alright, with a Vine Blight... Oh, DC 12 strength save. It's exactly enough. Displace a cloak does not affect your strength saving throws, does it, Wraith? Giving me bloody sass about the displace a cloak. It's an area of effect strength save. It's not affected by your displace a cloak. But you don't need to. With it's DC 12 strength save, you just make it. The area around you bursts whoosh, with vegetation reaching out to grab a hold of you. You manage to push yourself away from it. A bunch of it sort of like coils and burns away because of the torch that you've stuck into the ground beside you, keeping you active. That was the vine blight's turn against you. It is now the twig blight's turn against you. The twig blights are not going to attack you because you've stuck fire by your feet, and they are made of twigs and have vulnerability to fire. They don't like it, so they are going to avoid you. You see some of the bushes that were starting to come to life have started to immediately recoil and move away and avoid you, moving instead towards the base of the tree to your 10 feet to your right, where Mosh is hanging from. Okay, that is... what have we got here? That's all of everything, and then it is the bell plant's turn. It's not actually going to do anything yet. You can just see it starting to... actually, has no need to keep luring people in, so it's not going to fill itself back up with gas again yet. Yeah, it doesn't fill up itself with gas because it doesn't need to lure anybody now that it's got 2 victims. So the bell pepper is just going to wait. All right, that is all of the blightses. Who's going to do what? Dirty Straw. Dirty Straw. What do you want to do on Apis' turn? Just to set the scene for you again, you have a lit torch that is now stuck into the ground by your feet. You have a bow and arrow. The arrow you're holding is a fire arrow, so if you just dip it into the fire by your feet as a part of your attack, that's a free action. You can then fire a lit arrow at something. You have vine blights around, and you have twig blights around, and you have a bell pepper blight around. You are about 10 feet from where the base of the tree is, where Mosh is hanging from, and Mosh is about 10 to 12 feet in the air. Can Apis both yeet oil and fire the fire arrow? I feel like that's 2 actions. Oh, actually no. I'll allow that as 2 different attacks, because you can make 2 attacks as part of the attack action. So I would allow you to yeet a lantern oil as 1 attack, and then fire a fire arrow as a 2nd attack. Action to shoot the vine holding Mosh. Bonus to, I don't know, sorry, I'm new, I want to move Mosh as well. Okay, all good, Dirty Straw, you're doing a great job. So some of the things you can do as a bonus action is you have 2 spell slots. You have a 1st level and a 2nd level. You can see down in the spells there, if they've got BA in brackets, BA Baracus, you can see that that's a bonus action to cast. So you could use your bonus action to cast Hunter's Mark, you could use your bonus action to cast Zephyr Strike, or you could use your bonus action to cast Misty Step. But doing so will use one of your last 2 spell slots. Misty Step allows you to just teleport yourself up to 30 feet away. Not super useful right now because you don't really need you don't need to get anywhere that you can't just use your movement to get to. Zephyr Strike allows you to avoid attacks of opportunity, which might be good for retreating if and when you get Mosh out of here. And Hunter's Mark allows you extra damage on the thing that you're attacking. So you can use one of those as a bonus action. What else can you do as a bonus? I think that's it, really, isn't it? So you don't have to use a bonus action for anything. You can just make you attack the vine and then move to underneath Mosh to try and catch him if he falls. Okay, so you're gonna Hunter's Mark. Awesome. All right, you're gonna Hunter's Mark the vine blight that's holding Mosh. You use your bow. You reach out and picture the exact vegetation around the vine. You picture sort of picturing yourself as a creature that lives in the trees and tries to grab and pull up people to devour or to strangle or to constrict in some way. You try and focus on who and what and where that creature is, and it's very, very easy for you to do. You pull up the bow and cast Hunter's Mark as the greenery from the nearby leaves and vegetation seems to stick to that vines and almost outlines in a more vibrant green which of the vines are part of the vine blight and which of the vines are just regular parts of the tree canopy. So as a bonus action you've cast Hunter's Mark. As a free action you're going to dip the fire arrow into the flames at your feet And then as your action, you can fire off one of your fire arrows at the Vine Blight. If you hit, you do extra damage. And extra damage because of Hunter's Mark as well. So, we're going to go to a dice cam. And we're going to see what you get. That's a 16. 16 plus your modifier is definitely enough to hit. So that is going to be... how much damage? It's going to be quite a lot. It's going to be a d6 from the fire arrow. It's going to be a d8 from your arrow itself. And it's going to be another d6 from your Hunter's Mark. And then plus 3 from your dexterity. So that's 5, 11, 14 plus 3, 17 points of damage to this Vine Blight. 17 points of damage from your first attack. As the arrow strikes into the vines, the mass of vines that is getting Mosh right close to the tree canopy now, it strikes in, it bursts into flame. It does not seem to catch the vines alight because they are not tinder, like in the same way that the twig blights are. So they're not vulnerable to fire damage. It does not set them alight. But it definitely hurts them. You hear this sort of like otherworldly screech. And some of them start to whip around in pain and fear. They're still alive. You have not killed them. That was not enough to outright kill them, but it was enough to do more than half their hit points in a single attack. So, how that works in my games, back behind the DM screen here, is massive damage. This massive damage table right here says that if a creature takes more than half of its hit points in a single attack, it must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or the target, and then any one of these sort of extra effects that can happen. So the Vine Blight fails its con save. So what extra effect is going to happen for the Vine Blight? Ooh, not good either. 3. 3 is drops unconscious until the end of their next turn. And an unconscious creature, as it says here on the screen, an unconscious creature, where is it? Here. An unconscious creature is paralyzed, unaware of its surroundings, and drops what it's holding and falls prone. So with the massive damage that you do to that Vine Blight with your fire damage and your Hunter's Mark damage, you send its body into shock for a moment. It drops unconscious. It drops Mosh. Poof, Mosh falls about 12 feet onto the ground. He's going to take falling damage, but he's immune to bludgeoning damage, and in my games, falling damage is bludgeoning damage because that's obviously what it is, and it makes no sense that a werewolf would be immune to bludgeoning weapons but not immune to fall damage, because that's just fucking nonsense. So he falls to the ground, but he's immune to bludgeoning damage, and so he takes no damage from it. I will, however, roll him a dexterity check to see if he can land on his feet or whether he falls prone. And unfortunately, with a 6 plus his modifier, it's not going to be an... Actually, what's the fall DC from 10 feet? No, not enough. So he falls prone. As he falls, he hits down on the ground on all fours. That was your first attack. You have a second attack. Who do you want to shoot with your second attack, Dirty Straw? You can now shoot the same Vine Blight and see if you can kill it, or you can now shoot one of the other creatures around if you want. Does he crush some of the blights? I mean, no, he does not. So what do we do in Dirty Straw? That was a very good turn. Well done. Oh, and also you cast a spell, so you've used up your spell slot. We're going to shoot the nearest threat. Okay. The nearest threat. So that would be the vine that reached out towards you. You fire off to that guy. Is it going to be a fire arrow, Dirty Straw? You've got one more fire arrow. Are you going to use your last fire arrow against the other threat, or are you going to just make it a regular arrow? Not a fire arrow. Alright, so you reach down into your quiver, you reach out one of the regular arrows and fire it off to one of the vine blights nearby, the one that reached out towards you. Oops. What am I doing? I need to show it on camera because it's your roll, so you get to roll. Pow! Ooh, almost much better, but a 5. A 5 plus your attack modifier, though, is still a 13. A 13 is still enough to hit. It's only a vine, I guess. Only a vine. Alright, 13 enough to hit. You strike out, you fire off at that one, and you do, ouch, 7 plus 3, 10 points of damage to it, which is not half of its hit points. 10 points of damage to that vine, cuts through some of it. You've now injured 2 of the vine blights, but killed neither of them yet. You still have the fire torch by your feet. Mosh is now prone on the ground 10 feet to your right. And that is everything you can do on your turn except movement. And you said you wanted to move towards Mosh. So you now rush past the flaming torch, leaving it in the ground 10 feet back behind you. You rush over to Mosh, and with your movement, you manage to get him to his feet. And that'll be the rest of your movement to do so. Well done, Dirty Straw. Alright. You and Mosh are together. The vines, the unconscious one, it takes its turn and can't do anything. It then sort of wakes up or becomes sentient again. Shakes off the damage that was done to it. Then we've got the vine blights, the twig blights, and the bell pepper. Alright, so I'm going to go with the bell pepper first. You see, as you're standing Mosh to your feet, you sort of look that way and your eyes land on the bell in the centre of the clearing. You see that a large gash opens up in its left-hand side. It looks like a gash from a pierce of like an arrow if something had been cut into it. It looks like it's just been cut by an arrowhead. And then around that gash, it starts to burn. There's like ash and it's not ash because it's not woody enough to burn like that. But it starts to smolder like a green vine that is being burned by fire. It starts to just kind of singe and burn in. You see that it starts to take on damage, seemingly from nothing, and then on the other side a small arrow-sized gash opens up a little. That's all you notice for now. It is now the twig blights' turns. The twig blights, you are now 10 feet away from the fire, so they can get to you. So the twig blights are going to rush over and take attacks at you and Mosh. I'm going to see who they go for. They don't know that Mosh is immune to damage, or they probably would know that if they were smart enough to know that. But they're not smart enough. They're just kind of acting on instinct and impulse here. So there are 4 of them close enough to get to you and still attack. The others are going to have to make a dash to get to you. So the 4 that can actually make an attack at you, I'm just going to go 2 on each of you. 2 on each of you. The 2 that attack Mosh do nothing, and the 2 that attack you, a 7 on both of them. 7 plus their claw is not enough to hit your 15 armor class. So you get claws scratching across your boots and legs. It hurts, like it's scratching you and causing small scratches and cuts on your legs, but it's superficial enough to not equate to a total hit point. So none of them are actually able to get through your armor sufficiently to cause you a hit point worth of damage. But now you are now surrounded by a bunch more of them. There are 2 on you, 2 on Mosh, and with the dashing, you can see that there's about 6 others that are within range of you. That's the twigs. The vine blight from above you, the one that you caused a significant chunk of damage to, reaches down to try and grab a hold of you, and as it does so, you realise it has no damage. That is a miss. Thankfully for you, these guys are rolling garbage. That was a 5 on the dice, plus its modifier is not anywhere near enough to hit you. So it reaches out to try and constrict you. Does it get its entangle back? Oh, it might get its entangle back. Let's see. No. no longer unconscious. That was on its turn, wasn't it? Let's see, actually. What did I say? Until the start of its next turn or the end of its next turn? What was it? Unconscious until the end of the next turn. My bad. I thought it was the start. So yes, the one above you does not reach out to you. It was at the end of its next turn. So it reaches, it sort of like comes to and starts to reach down towards you, but it doesn't actually get to move on this turn. The other one, does it get its entangle back? It does not either. It's going to reach out. What's the distance it can reach? 10 feet. So it needs to get closer. It's got movement of 10 feet. So it starts to move itself through the canopy 10 feet towards you, above you. So you can see it's starting to reach out, almost Tarzaning itself. As one of the vines reaches up and grabs a hold of the nearby branches, the other vines drop off and it sort of turns itself upside down, and then it drops down towards you to try and grab you. This is one that does hit, finally. 16 plus its modifier. You also notice that this one is not taking damage. As you struck through it, it cut through a couple of the vines with your arrowhead, and you realise that those same vines have now stitched back together and healed themselves, as the pitcher has now taken on their damage. With a cloak, even. Displace a cloak. That's actually even more. 17 plus stuff. So even with a displace cloak, that hits. It grabs a hold of you. You are constricted. It is going to do 2d6. That's 7 plus 2 is 9 points of bludgeoning damage to you, and you are grappled. 9 points of bludgeoning. You'd taken 4 from the... so you were at 32. 9 off of that. You're down to 23 hit points. So, that is the bell, the twigs, and the vines. It is now Mosh. Mosh is going to strike out at the twigs that were attacking him. He's going to try and take those out first. He's just going to like stamp and claw and scratch at those. He's got 2 attacks. That's enough to hit one. I don't think the other one is. The other one, oh yeah, no, it is. It's just enough to hit. So he manages to hit both of them, and they have no hit points. He destroys the 2 twig blights that are on him. And then he, just as he sort of finished stamping on those, he looks across just as the vine has grabbed a hold of you, and he sees you getting grabbed by that. You shout to take the pitcher out. You shout, that thing seems to be healing for them! Take it out! And he says, I'm on it! And he sets off running towards those. The twig blights that have managed to swarm in towards you, the 6 that had managed to arrive at you within range, as I said, they all take attacks of opportunity on him as he leaves, and none of them do anything because he's immune to their damage. Some of them scratch across his legs and thighs and do nothing to him as he gets with his movement up towards the bell in the centre of the clearing. That is everybody's turn except for you, so let's see who's going next. I should have rolled this early. AG Will 3. Ajwil. Ajwil 3, are you still in the chat? Alright, Ajwil, what have you got going for you? You've got an action, a bonus action, and a movement. You don't have movement currently just because you're grappled by the thing, but if you manage to break the grapple, you've got your movement back. So you are grappled by a vine. It has not managed to lift you as part of the attack, it just reached out and grabbed you. But if Mosh was anything to go by, the one that is now above you and grappling you is going to start bringing you up. Our next step is to ask Mosh to bite us, become a werefox. It is an option. Apis could genuinely become a werefox if that's a decision that you guys wanted to make as a group. However, I will tell you that it is not a guaranteed thing to happen, as you are noticing with Benadryl, or Belladel as his name is. There's a chance that you would not survive the transformation. It is not a guarantee. If you do get cursed with any sort of were creature, there is a chance that you just die in the ordeal before you manage to embrace it. Alright, Ajwil says, bonus action to second wind. Would attacks be at disadvantage? Attacks against the vine that you're attacking, that's attacking you, would be at disadvantage. I'm going to say that if you wanted to attack any of the twig blights around your feet, you'd still be able to do so easily. Alright, second wind as a bonus action. Fantastic choice of second wind there to try and get some health back. Your second wind is... where's your d10 gone? There it is. Hey, a 10 again. Nice. That second wind's coming up nicely for you. So second wind, 10 plus 2. That's 12 extra hit points back. So taking us from 20, what did I say, 23 was it? It was 36, 32, 23. You're at 23, you're now back up to 35 hit points. 35 hit points. As you sort of focus in, you get that moment of serenity comes to your mind. You feel like you have the bolster resolve to keep fighting. Perfect second wind. 35 hit points. You are no longer bloodied. You have your action and your movement if you can get out of this grapple. What are you going to do with your action, Ajwil? Can we attack the bell pepper twice? We absolutely can. With your regular arrows or your +1 masterwork arrows or your sleep tranquilizer arrow. I would give you the suggestion of the fire arrow as well, but you don't have fire within 10 feet of you. Regular arrows, alright. So grabbing out regular arrows, 2 arrows, one after another at the bell pepper. I'm going to roll for you in the dice cam. Where's the dice cam? There it is. 2 attacks. That's a 10 and a 3. So the 10 plus your modifier definitely is going to hit. The 3 plus your modifier is definitely not. So do you want to use your inspiration to reroll that 3? Make sure both of them hit. Did we have a hunter's mark to move? You do have a hunter's mark, but the creature you hunter's marked is not dead, and so you cannot move the hunter's mark. All right, we're not gonna re-roll that at this time. Okay, so we're just gonna roll with one of them. The one that hits is gonna do your regular arrow of damage. That is. Sorry, I just rolled that without the dice cam. There we go. That's 2 on the dice, plus your 3 from your dexterity takes you to 5 points of damage on the bell pepper. 5 points of damage on the bell, plus the. Is now looking wounded. That bell pepper, as you strike through it, it cuts through one of the almost like a huge goulash sack of a frog or something. It's kind of like this long pitcher. It cuts into it, and the arrow sticks through it as you narrowly miss Mosh as he's running over there as well. And then your second arrow flies past it and into the trees behind. Does anyone actually remember what it takes to have the tranquilizer arrow work? So all it takes is firing an arrow at it. So if you fire the tranquilizer arrow, it deals the damage as normal. So if you've planar warriored or hunter's marked or whatever, it deals whatever damage it would have dealt as a normal arrow, and then it casts sleep as a first level spell. And sleep uses 5d8. You roll them, and if the number is better than if the number you roll on 5d8 is larger than the number of hit points it has left, then the target that you hit with the arrow will be put to sleep for 1 minute. All right. That was your action to make 2 attacks. Your bonus action to second wind, and because you are grappled by this vine, you do not have your movement. So that's all you can do. Ajwil, very good round. Well done. You've done a bit of damage to the bell. Does it cast sleep or uses Mel's spores? Con save. It doesn't cast sleep, so it's not actually casting a spell, so it can't be dispelled. It's just the same mechanics as the sleep spell. It was created using Mel's spores, but through the process of magic, it was turned into a tranquilizer arrow that uses the same mechanics as the sleep spell. It is now going to be one at a time. Let's see, you haven't done any damage to any of the mooks. The ones that were damaged by Mosh were just outright killed by Mosh, and so they can't be healed by the bell. It's only damage that has been done that is less than their full hit points that it can heal. So it's not going to heal anybody. The bell can't do much else. It could scream, but it's got nothing it can do about that. It's not going to lure anybody else to it. So the bell's going to do nothing. Mosh is then going to make 2 attacks at the bell. Try and screw this thing up. Are we still grappled? Yes, we are. So Mosh is going to attack with 2 attacks. The 19 plus stuff will hit. The 6 plus stuff will not. So he is going to do his clawing attacks. Not the worst, not the best. Average. 7, 10 points of damage to the bell. It's still standing. Mosh clawing and scratching, cutting huge chunks out of this this plant in the center, is still standing. As it's cutting chunks out of it, you can see that there's like what would normally be like the the nectar in the bottom of this pitcher is starting to pour out of some of the holes that has been made now, and it's got this thick reddish sort of crimson appearance to it. Dicing up that bell pepper, yeah. Alright, so that's Mosh's turn, the Bell's turn. The Twig Blights, a couple of them are going to go after Mosh and attack him, not do any damage to him. And then the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the other 4 of them are on you and are going to attack you. So you've got 4 Twig Blights on you. You are grappled but not restrained, which means that they don't have advantage on you yet. Although, they're size small, aren't they? So they need 4, yeah, they've got 4 on 1. So they do have advantage because you have the surrounded condition. The first one has Displacer Cloak disadvantage, which is just a straight roll. So straight roll is a miss with a 3. The second one also will have a disadvantage then. Disadvantage and advantage, straight roll. That's going to also miss with a 14, just. Your armor class was just enough to miss that one. The third one will be a straight roll as well. That one will hit with a 17. So you take 3 plus... Where's the Twig Blight? There it is, 3 plus 1. So 4 points of piercing and scratching damage from the Twig Blight, the first one to actually get through. And the Displacer Cloak shifts back into 1 for this last guy who has advantage now. 17 plus stuff. 17 plus stuff hits. And you take another 3. So that was 4 and 3. You've taken 7 points of damage. You were at 35. You're now at 28. 28 hit points left. You're at 28 hit points, which is less than half your hit points, so you're now bloodied or wounded. You are still restrained. It is now the 2 Vine Blights. The Vine Blight that was going for Mosh can no longer be hit by it. The Bell calls out for help. So the Vine Blight uses its movement to move above Mosh and then uses its action to try and grab him. Does it get its entangle back? It does not. So it's going to just reach out and try and grab him. Reach out and touch faith. It does. It manages to grab him with 17. Mosh is grappled. Again, it's used its action to grab him, so it can't also then pull him back up into the trees yet. But Mosh is now grappled by the thing. He can still make attacks at the main bad guy in the centre, but there's nothing else he can do. It can do right now. The Vine Blight that's attacking you, however. The Vine Blight is attacking you. Does it get its entangle back? It does not. So it's going to use its constrict. It's already constricting you, so it has advantage on the attack. It's going to do, with advantage on the attacks, a 16, so that hits. 16 plus 8 points of damage, so 28 down to 20. You're on 20 hit points of damage. And it is going to start to pull you up into the trees. You are now 5 feet off of the ground, 5 or 6 feet off of the ground. It's lifting you and constricting you. You can feel it pushing in and crushing your chest. That is everything it can do, though. All of the monsters. Yes, that is all of the monsters. So now it is Apis' turn. Matt, I won. What are you going to do, Matt? You've got your action, you've got your bonus action, you've got your movement. You are restrained. You are grappled, not restrained. You are grappled by the Vine Blight and being pulled up into the trees. You are about 6 feet off of the ground. You've been pulled out of the range of the melee range of the Twig Blights. Have we exhausted our spells? We have not. We've got 1 spell left. You can see the little vine on the spell board there has a single flower left. That is a second level spell. There are more than 2 Vine Blights, but there are only 2 that are seemingly engaging in combat with us, because the others are on the other sides of the clearing and they're just kind of hanging there, waiting and hoping that nobody, stopping anybody from escaping that direction. It's only the 2 that you kind of moved into the clearing in their space. Those 2 have activated. Alright, Matt says, can Apis fire normal arrows into the bell pepper and then Misty to the torch? You absolutely can, yeah. So you, with your first 2 actions, as you're being dragged up into the canopy, you've gotten away from the Twig Blights, you've got a nice view over the top of Mosh into the bell pepper. No chance of hitting him now. Well, not no chance. If you get nat 1, there's still a chance that you'll hit Mosh. But you are going to make 2 attacks at the bell pepper. I wonder if it's less intimidating, this monster, with me calling it a bell pepper. Alright, with your first 2 attacks. Pew, pew. That was a 17 and then it rocked to a 3. So that's a 13 and a 3. The 13 plus stuff will hit, the 3 plus stuff will not. Do you want to use your inspiration to reroll the 3, Matt? It is your decision to do. Do you want to reroll the 3? In the meantime, I will roll the regular attack on the regular damage, rather. 8 plus stuff, nice. 8 plus 3 from your damage is 11 points of damage to the guy. Alright, do you want to reroll that 3? Save it for future when we leave. Okay. Which is good, because the first one cuts into it pretty deep, right beside Mosh, and you feel it go limp, and then some of the gas that was inside it just kind of releases as a single kind of wispy voice that didn't seem to have much power behind it. Hard to tell for sure with it being a plant, but it didn't seem to have a lot of life left in it, if that makes sense. The second one sticks into the ground beside it, and then you, as a bonus action, Misty Step out of the grapple of this vine, suddenly react and free of your weight, sort of twangs up into the branches a little. You Misty Step, you reappear in right next to the flaming torch that's stuck into the ground, the thing that the twigs are all staying away from. Did we roll a Constitution save for concentrating on Hunter's Mark? We did not. Thank you for the reminder. We took a bunch of damage, so the first one is a 10 plus stuff's fine. The next time we took damage, it would have been a natural 1. So we drew on this last time that we took damage. We dropped concentrating on Hunter's Mark. We're no longer concentrating on that. Good turn there, Matt. Do you want to use your movement to get out of there? We are all out of spells. We've got inspiration left. That's all we got. Grab the torch, move towards Mosh. Alright. As a free object interact, you pick up your torch out of the ground and you rush towards Mosh, and a couple of twig blights are in the way and they start to scatter as soon as you get close with the torch. Excellent turn. Cancel that. Next up is exclamation mark torch. Exclamation mark torch if you want to be in with a chance to decide what happens on Apis' next turn of combat. In the meantime, Mosh is going to turn around and attack 2 of the twig blights by his feet. Not a good attack, Mosh. He's going to miss one of them and hit the other one and destroy it. Easy peasy, destroys one of them with even his minimum damage is enough. But with his second attack, he just kind of whiffs and just waves his hand at it more than anything. And then he turns to you and says, "Are we getting out of here?" Are we getting out of here is what he asks. Are we getting out of here? What do you say? Yes. Yeah, we're running. Yes. Alright, he is going to use his movement to get out of here. He takes attacks of opportunity from the twig blights on the way, which is good because it means that they won't get attacks of opportunity at you. With his movement, he's able to clear the clearing and get out of here. The vine blight that was in this area of where he's leaving, right where you'd stuck your torch in the ground, that one moved 10 feet to its right to follow you, and then you've just Misty stepped out of its range. So it's now cleared that section, so he doesn't have to push through vines. So he's just going to run. The vine blights and twig blights are going to give chase to him away from you because they don't like the fire. So they're going to try and catch up to him and not be able to because he's got faster speed than them. The vine blights, however, are going to move back in with their turn. They're going to move back in to try and no, Mosh. Just remembering, Mosh was grappled by one of the vine blights, wasn't he? So you run over to him. He is going to, instead of those attacks on the twig blights, it was going to be attacks on the vine blights instead. which means that I will roll damage for him, because otherwise he might not be able to cut himself loose. Oh, nice. 2 double 6s on his 2 6s. So double 6 plus his modifier. I'm going to say that's enough to cut the vine that he was grappled by, and then leave. So nothing changes. It's just that there's now an extra twig blight still alive, but they all chase after him anyway because they don't like the fire. Then the vine blights are going to move in. The one that has just been attacked by Mosh is going to attack you. Let's see if it gets its entangle back. It does not. So it's going to attack you. And with a nat 1, that's going to miss. Whips out at you from above. You manage to sort of swerve the flaming torch into its way and sort of bat it aside. The other one that just kind of grappled you, and then you misty stepped out of it, is going to shift back across. Again, it's going to sort of reverse Tarzan itself back into the branches that it initially inhabited, the ones that Mosh just ran past, and so it's now blocking the exit between you and where Mosh is. It is now your turn, Batmerp. Batmerp, it's your turn. You have an action, a bonus action, and movement. There is a Vine Blight within range of you, so if you run away, it'll take an attack of opportunity at you, and if it hits, it'll grab you. And to push past the other Vine Blight, you'll take another attack of opportunity. So what do you want to do? This one above you has taken some damage from Mosh's strike just before, which would have been 15 points of damage. So you could try and just kill the one above. In fact, 15 points of damage. Ooh, 15 is actually more than half its hit points. So it might fail another con save. That same way it does. It's the same Vine Blight that you made fail a save before. Has just failed again. And it got a 1 this time. A 1 on the D10 is the worst thing that can happen, which is it just drops to 0 HP. If it rolled a number 2, it would have dropped to 0 HP but be stable. So it's not stable either. It's just dropped to 0 HP and is either dead or dying. And because it's a mook and not a boss, it's not getting death saving throws. It's just dead. So when Mosh was grabbed and grabbled every time. When Mosh was grabbed by the Vine Blight before, as he was killing the bell pepper, he reached up and cut through a bunch of the vines, and apparently it was sufficient vines that to cut that the vine just like collapsed out of the tree and just landed in a heap at the feet right as he ran off. So Batmip, you do not have one above you. You only have the Vine Blights around you. If you start to leave basically in any direction of this clearing, you're going to have to get past some Vine Blights. That's all you have to deal with. So yeet the oil at the bell, light it up, and run away with the torch. Alright, so you're going to make sure that this bell is gone for good. You take out your last remaining lantern oil, and you just point blank smash right at the plant in the centre of this clearing, right beside you. Oil splashes everywhere. You touch it with the flaming torch in your hand. It lights up. You see a bunch more of the twig blights around start to recoil and start to run away from you. Now they've given up the chase of Mosh entirely, and they're just scattering from this huge fire in the centre of this clearing now. You see a couple of the closer vines, the ones that were dangling right behind this bell in the centre, start to also recoil back up into the canopy and start to sort of move away a little. And now you can run out of the clearing. You keep the torch out in front of you as you rush. You're going to run past one of these vines. It's going to take an attack of opportunity as you run past. Unfortunately, with an 18 plus stuff, that is going to hit you. As you try to push your way through with you have disadvantage because it has disadvantage because of the displaced cloak. I remember before anybody told me. 16 plus stuff is still going to hit you, unfortunately. Not the greatest damage for them. That's 3 plus 2. So only 5 points of damage takes you down to 15. Yeah, 15 hit points left as you run past it, and you take damage from the Vine Bite now. As you run out of its melee range, it grapples you. Unfortunately, as part of its constrict, means you are also grabbed, so you can't keep running. So So we're almost out of the woods, but not quite. That was a good turn, Batmerp. You've definitely made sure that the lure plant in the center is dead. Exclamation mark escape. Exclamation mark escape in the chat if you want to decide what to do. You have a torch in your hand. You have a bow in your hand. You can't use both at once. So if you want to fire an arrow, you're going to have to drop the thing. You have a hunting knife in your bag if you want to get that out to try and cut yourself loose. But at the moment, there is a healthy vine blight that has escarpe. How many more enemies remain? The ones that are a threat to you is just the vine blight that's grabbed a hold of you. The twig blights have all scarpered because of the fire. They're vulnerable to it and they hate it. The vine blights have mostly just let you go because you're too much trouble than it's worth. But the one that you literally ran past was like, easy meal. I'll grab him. All right, Mosh is. You said to Mosh that he's running, so he's running. He doesn't realize that you've been grabbed. Rebelin. What are we going to do? How are we going to get out of this situation? It's just you and the vine blight. So try and use action to break out of the grapple, use a movement, and then fire arrow. You won't be able to fire an arrow if you are getting out of the grapple. It will use your action to do so. But you can try and get out of the grapple and then use your movement. All right. So you are going to make a strength contest between you and it. Vine blight escape. The escape DC is a 12. You need to beat a 12 on your strength check to get out of it. You have a +1 to your strength check. I'm going to allow you to use athletics for this. So you can use... So you get a +4. So 1 plus your proficiency. So let's turn on the dice chem. You've got a +4. You need a 12. So you need to roll an 8 to get out of this. Here we go. That's a 14. 14 plus stuff is fine. You are out of the grapple. With your action, you manage to break yourself loose. As it's grabbed a hold of you as you run past it, it sort of like spins you around. You hold your torch up to it and it kind of recoils a bit, and then you push your way away. You grab a hold of one of the vines and you push it over your head and just kind of throw it off. There's another vine starts to wrap around your waist as you're trying to get yourself loose out of here. It's like trying to grab you with lots of vines all at once. And as you've pulled this one off, there's one that's reached out to your waist, but you see it coming and you put your torch towards it and it sort of recoils from it. There's another one that's snaked its way down through your thigh, and you just kind of pull that away. And with your sheer strength, you manage to pull off of the. You manage to pull yourself off of the vine. You've got your movement left, so you use your movement to leave its melee range again. It is going to take an attack of opportunity because you're leaving its melee range. Unfortunately, that's how these things work. But with a 7 plus its modifier, it's not enough to hit a 15. You leave its melee range without an attack of opportunity, and you chase Mosh now. There are a couple of vine twig blights that are running after Mosh still, but then as soon as you catch up to them, because you've got faster movement than them, even as a dwarf, as soon as you start to catch up and the torchlight is coming, they scamper to the sides and just give up the chase of Mosh. You have escaped that particular situation. You rush your way back towards the house. As you are rushing with a fire in tow, you see leaves stirring up around that start to fly towards you, and then sort of peel off at the last second, realizing that you've got fire. They will. It seems like the leaves also don't want to die, so they are going to ignore you as much as you can. You get back to the house, however, and as the dilapidated house comes into view, you see that there are quite a few blights around it, quite a few leaf blights. As they are flying up to the windows and up to the doors, it seems like this house is being harangued by these things. There's also quite a few twig blights out on the porch that again are getting up to the windows and the doors and the eaves of the house. You can hear buzzing from inside the house. It seems like Mel has gotten inside the house, but the house is being harangued. As you get close, though, and sort of like, whoa, you pull yourself up short to be like, I'm not just running at them, what are we going to do? You stop for a second to identify what the threats are and what to do, and you realise none of them are going in through the open windows and the open doors. All of the twig blights and the leaf blights are just harassing the outside of the house, but they're not actually going into the building. There is no fire inside the house. You and Mosh have made a decent chunk of noise coming through the brush. You've lost all of the ones that were chasing you, but now the ones outside of the house turn to see you, and some of them start to make their way across you, but now you put the torch between you and Mosh, and you just kind of hold it there, and they realise, oh, this is a dangerous situation. And slowly, one by one, they kind of like peel off and leave the house alone as you get closer and closer to the house. These bushes start to leave into the undergrowth nearby. You work your way up the porch just as the last few leaves kind of flitter away from you and escape. And you head in through the front door. Inside you see the gravedigger sort of standing there with a shovel in hand, looking concerned. What was his voice? I can never remember the gravedigger's voice. I think he's just going to go old man Yorkshireman. He goes, "What was that then? You alright? What were it?" And Mosh says, "It was a trap. It was a trap. It was some sort of a plant that made the sounds of a screaming so that we would get closer to it, and then we got attacked by a bunch of plants." "Yeah, they didn't want to come in. What was that about? Do you have some sort of enchantment on these stones, old man?" "Not that I know of, no. You don't have any sort of enchantment that would keep them outside. There's no reason that they wouldn't have come in." I'm going to roll a history check for all present. I'm going to roll a history check for Apis, Mel wouldn't know, Mosh and Gravedigger. So Mosh and Gravedigger, the Gravedigger knows. So the Gravedigger knows, but you don't. Mosh doesn't. Let's see if you do. History check. Nat 20. Nat 20 history check. Alright. Thankfully your mother comes to the rescue again. Your mother has told you a lot of stories growing up. She was very fond of stories. And as much as her stories often revolved around fey creatures and the Feywild and fairies, she often told you other stories as well. Stories of other monsters and creepies, and in a world where here in the real world, vampires don't actually exist, and yet we know quite a lot about them, right? Everybody knows lore about vampires with garlic and crosses and all that stuff. So in a world where vampires literally do exist, you'd think that people would be told quite a bit about things like that, right? It wouldn't be unusual that that people growing up in a world where these monsters are real would literally be told certain precautionary tales about them. So Apis remembers thinking back on what sort of enchantments could keep these out. Apis remembers the story of a vampire that your mother told you once, and how they are often much more active at night time because the sunlight can hurt them. They are often charming and seductive in how they talk to people, and they get by trying to pass themselves off as real people because they require invitation in order to enter a person's abode. There's also stories that you remember about running water harming them, or not being able to cross over running water. In this moment, as you're asking about enchantment on the stones or this house, you remember that these creatures, these plants, were being referred to as vampire plants. The origin of these plants was something to do with a vampire having a wooden stake through his heart, and then that wooden stake sprouting into a tree of its own and absorbing some of the blood of the vampire and becoming vampiric of its own. And so you're pretty sure that that's the case, that these vampire plants require invitation inside in order to actually get into anybody's abode. Exposition dump. You tell Mosh and Mel and the Gravedigger what you know, and the Gravedigger says, "I think I've heard something like that as well. I've always felt a little more at home or comfortable in this house than out there in the forest around, even before all this nonsense started. So maybe that's something. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something to having like a magic of the hearth or the home or something. But what do you want to do? You are, relatively speaking, safe. You are pretty cut up. There's some open sores and wounds from you. You're feeling a little bit sore in the chest from where one of the constricting vines had crushed you and maybe bruised some ligaments or something. Maybe you've got a couple of tears to a few pieces of connective tissue. You could do with a rest of some sort. Long rest within these walls seems to be protected. Sleep here overnight, light a fire in the hearth, take turns and watch. Try and put a door back in the hole. Would it apply to a tent? If you live in a tent, it's your home. Can a vampire enter? You might have to test it sometime, just Nasila. Alright, so who's keen to stay here for a long rest? It is now it's now dark, and it's now like 8 PM or so, give or take. So thumbs up, thumbs down. Who wants to have a long rest here in this ramshackle house? Yes. Alright, overwhelming yeses. Who wants to start a fire in the hearth of this ramshackle house? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you want to start a fire? Vampire plants aren't the only danger. We're still close to that graveyard, and we don't want any undead jumping us while we sleep. We should barricade the doors and windows if possible. Yeah, so we mentioned that to all the people present. We should really try and barricade ourselves in, because they might not be able to enter, but there's the undead creatures as well that we were fighting. And there might be beasts and other monsters as well. Demons. Alright, most people saying yes, start a fire. So easily enough done. You are an outlander and a ranger. You can find firewood and stick the fire into the hearth. You are smart enough to not start unprotected fires, so you check up the flue first. And you can't tell for sure, but it seems like it should be okay to use this hearth, this chimney. So you start a fire in it, using a small one at first, just to test that the smoke is actually going up and out. And once you've ascertained that yes it is, you start a slightly larger fire in the hearth. It's a dusty, dirty, rundown place. There's crumbs of dried soil just throughout the entire place. There's thick layers of dust everywhere. There's like holes, mouse holes and pest holes all over the place, and cupboards are bare, and rusted handles, all sorts of just nasty to live in, but you're not going to be getting any creature comforts from this place. But you've slept in worse. If it means not getting out there in the forest where you're going to have your blood sucked by vampire plants, then so be it. During your first little sit down, you recognise that all the places where the vines did hit you, where I mentioned the one grabbed around your ankle and snapped off, you can see that the vine is still kind of around that. You reach down to pluck it off, and you realise that it has barbs on the inside of the plants, and you have got a few like welts, kind of mosquito welts around your ankle where this vine had grabbed you. You can see a couple more of them where they've hit you and grappled you around your chest. Obviously through the armour it didn't manage to grab you, but where it leaves the armour and enters your neck, you can see that there's a couple more welts across there from where the vines were starting to suck the blood. A couple of the leaves that attacked you had done the same. They'd sort of just cut across you, and the blood has started to drip down. So you've got cuts and bruises and scratches, but you managed to bandage yourself up easily enough with that first little sit down, getting the place usable. You have a half hour to short rest. Then you can choose what to do. You spend your time trying to barricade the door, and then have a long rest. You have a couple of hours left of the day. Obviously it's nighttime, but it's not. It's still evening. It's you've got. I'm going to say by the time you've short rested and sort of got the place ready to rest, it's probably like 9 PM. So you can just go straight to sleep, or you can spend an hour doing some downtime activity if you want. Let me roll just to see how well between the three of you, how well you've barricaded the doors and stuff. There's plenty of like rotting wood and furniture and stuff around that you could try and use to barricade the doors a bit. Yeah, 15 plus stuff. You managed to do a decent job of closing the shutters that still close, lifting the door so that even though it's not on its hinges, it'll still be in the door slot. Putting up a couple of furniture items behind the door so that if anything comes in, you'll at least be alerted to it. Short rested. We should use second wind. Yeah, use second wind just at the end of your first half hour to sit down. Bandage your only a 2 this time. 2 plus 2, still 4. 4's better than nothing. So you're up to 19 hit points. Fleshy Mound to the north. Vampire plants to the west. Time for dragon to the south. Practice hand signals with Mel. All right. Yes. So for your first hour, for your hour of your downtime before you go to sleep, actually, I'm going to say this is not going to work, unfortunately, as a downtime activity for now. Because it's dark and Mel is just straight up animal, she is on a very circadian rhythm of the daylight, and she is not awake enough for this to be a thing you can do. She, as a giant bee, she is not in any way nocturnal. So as soon as the light's gone, she starts to get super tired. So she's already tucked up nearby the fire, not directly in front of it, but she's tucked up in an armchair, and she's just all curled up. Read through our book on the plains by the firelight. Check our books on anything for vampirism. You have a little flick through the books that you've got, Redial. You've got a book on plants, a book on potions, and a book on plains. None of them seem to have anything to do with vampirism. You could, theoretically, I'm going to say you've got one of two options for your book, for which book to read for your downtime. You can choose to read the book on plants to see if there's any mention in there about vampire plants and blights, and any mention of usable materials from vampire plants. Or you can use the Plains book and just read about something about planar travel. Maybe you could read about the Feywild, being that a lot of Apis' mind wants to go to the Feywild soon. So do you want to read about the Feywild? Do you want to read about see if you can read about blights in the plant book? Seems to recall that some of the blights early in the campaign released pheromones to summon more of them. That is correct. Plants, planar, plants, plains. Plains, plants, plants, plants. Seems like we're going to have to put a vote to this one, because you guys are in two minds about it. Which book to read? Plants or plains? Which are we going to read? Use TomTom to trial and error, work out which exact plane the portal leads to. That's a very good idea, Batmurp. Very good, Tom. Very good idea. Try and work out with TomTom what the plane is, what the portal is that's nearby. Could we just try to find if anything is mentioned about vampire plants and not? And if not, we read the other book. It's going to take your downtime time to actually read through the book, because it's not like it's easily searchable. You're flicking through it and you're trying to skim read to see if there's anything on it. So it's going to take your time to read the whole thing, to skim through the whole thing, just to see if there's anything usable in it. We could also ask TomTom if it can open a portal to the Feywilds. Well, easy enough done, Redial. You ask TomTom, can you open a portal to the Feywilds? And he looks at you with his little antenna, completely unabashed and unfazed. He doesn't seem to understand the question. With 58% of the vote, pretty close tie, but we decide we're going to skim through the book on plants to see if there's anything in here about blights. In front of the fire, you've put Mosh and Gravedigger on watch. The Gravedigger's probably gone to bed already because he's an old man. But Mosh is on lookout. And you're sitting in front of the fire flicking through this book. I'm going to roll you a... actually, no, I don't need to roll you a check because there's no chance of failure here. Nothing happens if you fail. So you're just going to take 20 to just like thoroughly read this book as much as you can to... go to the contents page, find the vampire plant section. You flick your way through the book looking for stuff on vampires. I'm going to just roll to see if and how quickly you find anything. After about 45 minutes of just like flicking, you find yourself getting distracted reading about other interesting like medicinal qualities of various plants and stuff. There is a section that you come to on the unorthodox watering methods of various different plants, and you see that most plants prefer fresh water. Many can survive on just rainwater, Other plants in rarer situations can thrive in saltwater environments. Others still require more specific water, like fresh water from the plane of water, and only survive very rarely outside of the plane of water. And then there's a brief mention. It says, and while very rare indeed, some plants require blood to survive. That makes you pause and you go back and read the section before and after and kind of get more of a context. And it says, most notable among these plants are the blights, with an unknown origin speculated to be in the death of a famous vampire known as Gulthias. These plants thirst for blood the way that their once master would have. It tells you a little about them, things that you've already known. They can take many forms and usually evolve from the local fauna of the area. The local flora of the area, to match and blend in with local wildlife, local plant life. They thirst for blood, and upon not getting them, they become sluggish and slow and start to wilt. It tells a little bit more about just specifics of not how to identify them, but how to avoid coming in contact with them. And it's just like, stay out of the forests, or be careful to wrap up all of your exposed skin, and this and that and the other. It then says useful qualities. And it starts to get into more of the medicinal qualities of the blights. It says there is risk, while some scholars believe that there is risk to consuming in any way the remnants of such a vampiric plant. Others believe that it has regenerative qualities. When harvested in the correct manner and used by someone proficient in herbalism, of the various herbalistic arts, it is believed that some of the regenerative qualities of a vampire may be imbued upon such a person using such rare ingredients. However, claiming such ingredients can be very difficult and dangerous. And then that's all it says. It doesn't give any specifics about how to do it. It just says that some scholars believe that if you use blight material, it's potential that you can have regenerative effects. But there is a risk to doing so, not only harvesting them, but also in the danger that comes from meddling in necromancy, meddling in anything to do with vampiric magics. We learn enough from browsing the book to be able to create light healing potions with our brewing kit. That would be the potion book, not the plant book. Let's get back to taking some mosquito plants then. Yeah. It's an option. So if you want to harvest any blights that you come across, you can attempt to do so. You are not proficient in the herbalism kit, so it would be difficult for you to do so. You are, however, good at survival and nature and things, being an outlander. You start to get tired. You start to go on. You start to feel yourself flagging. It's probably like 10 p.m. or so. So you close up the book. You stretch and feel your ribs sore from where you were constricted before. You ask Mosh to wake you if there's an issue, and then you get your bedroll out and in front of the fire. You start a long rest. The plant book is more for being able to learn to recognise useful plants and things. Yes, the plant book is going to be useful for gaining proficiency in the herbalism toolkit. If you spend enough downtime studying this book, you will eventually get proficiency in herbalism. You will be able to recognise plants a little better, and then you can cultivate and forage for potion ingredients a little bit easier once you have the herbalism. All right. So you start a long rest. You wanted to ask TomTom something right before going to sleep, didn't you? So as you roll out your bedroll, you get into your bed. You call TomTom out onto the palm of your hand. TomTom, for anyone who doesn't know, is a wayfinder beetle. He is more of an item than a creature. It was given to us as a gift ? From a fairy, as a way of helping us to locate portals to other planes of existence and whatnot. We weren't told what it does. We were told we have to work it out in a very irritating fairy-like way. They speak in riddles a lot, so we were told work it out. So we have sort of worked out that if we ask it the location to a portal nearby, it will point direction. It will crawl along our hand in the direction of a nearby portal. It is known as a wayfinder beetle, and we're still working out the specifics of what it can and can't do. So what do we want to ask? Somebody said something to do with TomTom, so what are we going to do? What are we going to ask TomTom? You're going to agree with Sparrow. What did Sparrow say? I don't think we want to risk trying to gather some just on the off chance that Edith can use it. I'd say if we haven't burned the vine fragment yet, shove it in an empty vial and seal it so it can't escape into our bag. Very clever. You take the vine fragment that you'd taken from your leg. Would you have burnt it before reading the book? I kind of feel like you might have. I'm going to roll a percentage check to see if you would have. That is something that Apis would do. Unfortunately, I'm going to say that you did. You because you were short resting and taking these vine blights and stuff off of you before you read the book, you threw it into the fire. Alright. We did say that we did. There you go then. Now that there's a demon problem, can we ask the nearest portal to the abyss? Is that what we want to do? Lady Amarise is saying nearest portal to the abyss. Knowing about the demon problem and the fact that demons come from the abyss, which I think would be enough common knowledge for you. You've got a +3 intelligence. You're not proficient in arcana or religion, but I don't think you'd particularly need to be to know that demons come from the abyss. I thought the chances were slim, but I figured I'd mention it. Yeah, it's a good idea, Sparrow. Each lower plane to work out which lower plane exactly. Do we know the location of the closest portal to the Feywilds? You know of portals to the Feywilds, I believe, from memory. Alright, most people saying yes, let's just ask it about the abyss. So you ask TomTom, you say, which direction would I have to go to get to the closest portal to the abyss? Immediately it sets off along one of your fingers, and standing at the tip of your ring finger, you sort of think about what direction that is. You turn your hand, it quickly runs down this finger and up your thumb as you turn your hand, always pointing in the same direction. You get up and walk over to the window to confirm your suspicion, and it's definitively pointing towards the Lone Mountain. You ask, where's the nearest portal to the Feywild? It sets off running back down your thumb and up towards the wrist. You turn around on the spot and it runs up your fingers until you realise that it's pointing towards the south by southeast sort of direction from where you are, which is kind of more in the direction of the elven villages. That's where the water contamination was coming from. It was indeed. You ask, would the Fey portal take us to Diggin? The bug continues to just stand at the end of your finger, pointing in the direction it was pointing. Set a long rest, get the Gravedigger to update elves, head with Mosh to the Feywild. Get our map cloak from Mosh. Yeah, we take our map cloak back from Mosh. Thank you for that. We don't wear it because we've got our displacer cloak on. We just bundle it up so that we don't lose it. Put it in our bag. Oh, don't bundle it up. You just want to actually triangulate it. So you set the map down with the cloak with the massive map on it. and you think about where it should be from where you are. You look at the map. It's not a perfect representation because obviously it's a map and all maps are fallible because they're made from people, and this one has been copied from another map that was a war map, and it's on the back of a cloak, which isn't exactly a perfect rectangle, so there's going to be issues here. It's not exactly like using Google Earth here, but you're doing your best, and you can triangulate that the Feywild portal is pointing from where you are in the beginnings of the Great Expanse down towards the direction of the Four Sisters, the four elven sister villages. You quickly put the cloak on and think about that new addition to the map, and then you take it off, and sure enough there's now a line on from where you think you are in the direction that you think it's facing, and you're doing your best to try and triangulate where this Feywild portal might be now. You do have an ability, remember, called Detect Portal, where if you focus, does it cast a spell slot or something? I can't remember. I don't think it casts a spell slot for you, does it? I think it's just a once per day thing you can do as part of your class. Ranger, Horizon Walker, Detect Portal. You gain the ability to magically sense the presence of a planar portal. As an action, you detect the distance and direction to the closest planar portal within 1 mile of you. Remember that as I have changed that to say that it acts like your favoured terrain thing. If you are within your favoured terrain, it's up to 6 miles of you. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest, so you can use it once per short rest. Do we think that would be in the direction of this that seat portal we found the first time we used Detect Portal? It might be, Sparrow, yes. You are quite far from where you were when that happened, though, and completely different directions, so it's going to be hard to tell. But it's a possibility that it's the same direction as that, yes. It recharges on a short rest too. Should be using it frequently. Yeah, could be definitely triangulating the existence of portals if you were using this every time you had a short rest. The closest portal is probably the one on the mountain. I don't think this will be useful. It might be. It might be useful to get a direction and distance of the closest portal though. Can we ask TomTom how many times a day we can use them? Ask them to do circles or something. You ask TomTom that, you get no response. TomTom is not smart enough to answer questions like that. It does what it is designed to do, which is seemingly tell you the direction of a portal. You can use it tonight, it'll be recharged in the morning. Yep, may as well use it at night then. Alright. So as you get back away from the window, you sit back down at your bed, you're about to go to sleep. TomTom runs back up your bracer. You think what it feels like to have that energy, that planar warrior energy, that crackling of static electricity across the skin, that feeling of raw magic that is the building blocks of the universe. You think about what force really is, that force magic, the ability to step from this plane to another through some sort of misty step, some sort of doorway through reality, using the magics of the universe. When you transform your attacks into the ethereal plane and back into the real plane, using that planar magic with it, you just think about portal, planar travel, and you get a strong feeling in the direction of the mountain, and then before you can stop it, you are whisked away as if grabbed by the sternum and pulled. You move at tremendous speeds, blasting through the sides of the walls and forests. Things whip past you. You are feeling yourself transported from your location in the direction of the mountain. As you get closer and closer, you see death and destruction and darkness starting to creep into the forest around this mountain. In every direction there seems to be corruption. The trees seem wilted and twisted and blackened. The leaves are no longer on the trees as they should be in spring. You move towards the grey stone of the mountain, imposing and looming above you, this dark, ever-present storm cloud above the mountain, sort of ringing the peak. You are whipped without seeing any detail, without being able to focus on the detail of your surroundings. You are whipped closer and closer towards this dark stain on the foothills of this mountain. It becomes closer and more apparent and clearer as you see the destruction and ruins of a once thriving town. Hundreds of buildings destroyed and lying in ruins. You see glimpses of creatures that defy logic in their existence. There's movement around as you whip past them. You catch glimpses of teeth and eyes and wings and claws. You move through the destroyed town, and suddenly you stop on the outskirts at the site of a destroyed temple. And at the side of the destroyed temple, a huge graveyard. At the center of the graveyard, a large crypt, and spewing from this crypt, constant black and purple smoke, wisping together with fragments of tangible screams, embodiments of the concept of terror, seemingly forced and focused into sparks of light and inherent evil. And nearby this crypt, a presence. You're not able to make out what it is, but you know it is there to protect. And immediately, even 10 times faster than you were whipped here, you are whipped back to your present-day body. I'm going to make a wisdom saving throw for you. Nat 1. Should have rolled it in the tray, sorry. You have the frightened condition for the next 5 minutes as you are shaken by what you've seen and just the inexplicable avoidance of words that you see, that you experienced. It evades description, the feeling that you was left inside you just from glimpsing the direction to this portal, the inability for the mortal mind as yours to understand the true terrors of the abyss. But you've seen a glimpse of a portal to it open. You are shaken to the core, and it takes you a good 5 minutes before you shake off the frightened condition, and a good half an hour more than that before you can get to sleep. But get to sleep you do. As you dream, your dreams are disturbed. You dream of death. You dream of abject horror. You dream of incomprehensible body shapes. But you do, as restless as it is, you do gain the benefits of a long rest. Mosh and the Gravedigger, taking it in turns to keep watch, seeing you tossing and turning, decide it's better not to wake you, to leave you to sleep, because waking you from this means you probably wouldn't have gotten back to sleep again. You regain your spell slots, you regain your hit dice, one of your hit dice, which I think is all that you've spent. You regain your hit points, and you are left deciding what to do. And that is where we're going to pick up next time. Thank you for joining me, everybody. See you later. Whoa, look at the names of all these cool people supporting me. If you want to see your name here, check out my Patreon. There's a lot of cool perks on there for you. You'll enjoy it.